Cadenas, a powerful military force that maintains peace for this vast empire. Each legion among the 7 knight orders of House Cadenas possesses military strength comparable to a mid-sized nation. The descendants bearing the purest Cadenas blood are said to have dragon blood flowing within them. True to the name Golden Dragon, they are born with shimmering golden hair and golden eyes, carrying the bloodline of dragons, the emblem of noble dragons. Young dragons gather here to awaken that latent power, from mainline descendants who can use a superpower called an attribute due to their concentrated blood, to the secondary line members striving with all their might to surpass their limits. Everyone was testing their strength and honing their skills, right on House Cadenas' training ground. William tightened his grip on the sword, stepped back, and steadied himself. Across from him, Burita decisively launched her next counterattack. After a while, it seemed he hadn't suffered a scratch. She also paused, holding her breath and steadying herself. While fighting, many thoughts flashed through Burita's mind. Impossible, I thought that even if he was number 1, if the 2 of us teamed up we'd still win, right? She glanced at Leonard sitting in a corner complaining, wondering how number 4 got knocked out in an instant like that. Facing the next attack, she gritted her teeth, raised her sword, and poured all her strength into defending. But at that very moment, a blurred figure suddenly tore through the air with terrifying speed. Burita froze, her pupils contracting in fear, and only managed to utter a helpless curse in her head. Damn it, I couldn't perceive his movement at all. In the end, Burita fell to her knees on the ground, followed by William's cold remark. You 2 teamed up and this is all you could do? Unbelievable, considering we've all awakened our inherited attributes. You are no match for me, too weak. No different from the trash of the secondary line. Well, anyway, everything ends here. The winner of this selection is me. At the headquarters of House Cadenas' Young Dragon Knight Order, Fabian stood before the monitoring system that observed the entire battle and commented, "This cohort of trainees displays very impressive skills. So, in your opinion, who deserves the special rank?" The assistant lowered his eyes and offered his opinion. Indeed, this batch has many promising young talents, but only one person is qualified for that rank, and that's number 1, William. Even when number 2 and number 4 attacked together, they couldn't so much as touch a hair on him. He nodded and continued in a low voice, "If I recall, number 2 and number 4 are mainline descendants too, right?" The assistant confirmed that was correct. Fabian went on to ask, "What about the others?" He reported seriously that the secondary line members had almost been completely wiped out by now. Only a few survived by following teams led by mainline members. Hearing this, he formed his own conclusion. Indeed, the bloodline wall is insurmountable. In this training ground, numbers are the measure of strength. In other words, number 1 represents the strongest among the hundreds of trainees. So it's natural that number 1 is chosen as the special rank. Fabian made the decision, and this time there was no need for further deliberation. The assistant complied and finalized it. "Then we will select William for the special rank." Bluno, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke up, cutting through everyone's thoughts. "Wait a moment. Observe a little longer." Fabian was surprised. He let out a small sound and asked, "Why is that?" Bluno looked his counterpart straight in the eye and presented his view seriously. "Actually, there's one secondary line member who stands out. I believe after watching his skill, it won't be too late for you to decide." At this, Fabian seemed piqued with curiosity and continued with a question. "What's his registration number?" Bluno answered immediately without hesitation. "He's number 25. Fabian nodded slightly and said thoughtfully, "I see. So even among the secondary line there are those who accumulate strength to climb the ranks. Number 25 is certainly outstanding, though he still seems to fall short of my expectations. However, since the chief instructor himself mentioned it, there must be a valid reason." Fabian mumbled the name of number 25, Leonard Cadenas. Bluno continued, saying that a few days ago the boy suddenly burst into prominence and defeated every trainee who stood in his way. In a short time he climbed from rank 381 straight to position 25. The assistant beside him seemed incredulous and interjected, "Surely you're joking." Bluno tipped his chin and said, "Look at the screen. Right now is the moment he's facing number 1. At this moment Leonard was directly confronting William. He spoke arrogantly. "Number 25, you've got some nerve. Coming all the way here? Come to surrender? Sorry. I'm not in the mood to hold back." Leonard, hearing this, showed no fear or hesitation and replied calmly, "That's good then. In that case, I have no reason to hold anything back either." At that challenge, William's pupils widened in surprise. William tightened his grip on his sword, bristling with murderous intent as he stepped forward and declared, "Trash like you dare? Draw your sword. I'll teach you a lesson." Leonard scanned him once, having formed his own assessment. I see his title of number 1 isn't just for show. The pressure radiating from him is completely different from the others. He regained his confidence and curled his lips in eager anticipation. "Come on, let's see." Leonard pointed the tip of his sword at William and said, "Come at me. I'm the one who will teach you a lesson." He told himself he would see how far he could go with his current strength. Without another word, William decisively leapt into the air, forming a downward strike from above. Leonard remained unnaturally calm. He simply raised his eyes in silence to follow the figure hurtling toward him at terrifying speed. William suddenly roared, determined, and swung his sword with all his might. "I'll crush you along with that sword." Meanwhile, Leonard showed no expression. He stood staring at his opponent as if William's killing intent could not sway him. Then Leonard raised his sword with both hands to block the thunderous strike from above, producing a powerful shockwave that rippled outward. In that situation, William was taken aback for a moment. The two blades collided head-on in an instant. Then, with a light flick, Leonard was able to send him flying backward. William staggered, struggling hard just to keep his footing as his body was pushed back. Leonard looked at him coldly and spoke, "My sword isn't easily broken by an apprentice knight like you." After saying that, he thrust his sword forward and curled his lips confidently. William didn't stop. He sliced through the air and launched a series of consecutive attacks. However, every strike was narrowly dodged by Leonard. Watching the display, Bradley excitedly praised, "A rather rare sword style. It doesn't seem to be the orthodox swordsmanship of House Cadenas. Even so, I'm surprised. Not a single wasted movement. He's deflecting every attack with minimal force, and he hasn't even launched a real counterattack yet." After some struggling, Leonard descended steadily. Opposite him, William shouted in anger, "You little ant, only good at running away." Having spoken, he forcefully swung his sword, producing a terrifying kinetic force that sent Leonard's body flying backward. Amid the turbulent air, Leonard steadfastly maintained his defensive stance from start to finish. His feet scraped intensely against the ground to check his retreat and stabilize his body. Immediately after, the atmosphere seemed to freeze as both Leonard and William simultaneously unleashed their latent energy. William's power surged like a frenzied storm as he attacked. In contrast, Leonard remained unnaturally calm. He stood silently, ready to absorb the rolling wave of energy poised to engulf everything. After a while, Leonard descended slowly in front of William. He brushed the dust off his trousers, strolled forward step by step, and gently remarked, "The power you emitted is quite impressive." Contrasting that composure, William couldn't keep calm. He frenziedly swung his sword, continuing to unleash relentless attacks. Leonard tilted his body slightly to narrowly evade the razor-sharp blade while the opponent's angry voice rang in his ear. "You who only run around and still have the nerve to mouth off? Fight properly." Leonard said little. He lightly leapt to one side to maintain distance. Leonard's eyes fixed on William as he thought, "Strength is one thing, but his judgment isn't bad either." Watching the opponent slip into a frenzy, he calmly concluded, "But what he still lacks is the sense and experience forged on the edge of life and death. No matter how excellent a trainee he is, this is his limit." William froze on the spot. What? After the unexpected blow, he lost momentum and struggled to regain his composure. The onlookers outside were all astonished. "No way, that guy is fighting on par with number 1. Is he really number 25? It feels like he's become a completely different person." Leonard's pupils flashed like lightning. He landed nimbly and then accelerated his movement. William ground his teeth in frustration. "Damn it! I've lost his trail." Just as Leonard closed in at his feet, William was momentarily stunned. "When did you appear?" William gaped in astonishment and cried out, "Unbelievable! How could someone like you, without much back and forth?" Leonard curled the corner of his mouth and declared, "You've lost, number one." With that, he mercilessly swung to slash away the powerful stream of energy toward William. He was hit. His eyes rolled back in pain as blood surged from his esophagus. This would have been unimaginable for the old Leonard, yet all of his memories have now returned. Fragments of memories from Leonard Cadenas's past life. The man once hailed as the greatest sword emperor the world had ever seen. Ren, the man whose life revolved solely around the sword. With a single stroke, he could easily split the sky, reach a realm capable of shattering mighty mountains, and proudly claim the title of Sword Emperor. However, that still did not satisfy him. In the end, he decided to challenge the heavenly demon, the one considered the strongest of his age. That life-or-death battle raged on for days on end. Its ferocity exceeded the limits of human endurance. They say the aftershocks of that confrontation even reshaped the map of that land. In the end, amid the ruined landscape and the crimson glow of the blood moon, two figures stood facing each other in silence. Leonard, his body battered and bleeding, panted and demanded, "I don't understand. My swordsmanship should have reached perfection. Why?" He asked the heavenly demon many puzzled questions. "Why couldn't my sword even touch you?" The man listened and only curled a smirk, replying, "Because of the most fundamental thing. You never truly understood the essence of the sword. You dared wager your life and fight to this extent. You are impressive. Yet the shortcomings from neglecting the most basic things ultimately became the fatal weakness that caused your defeat." Leonard tightened his grip on his sword and growled, "Me lacking the basics?" An insult that sounded ridiculous and cliched. The heavenly demon abruptly interrupted him. "How meaningless! That a stray dog like you could fight me to this degree is already impressive. When you fall, the legend of the name Ren will close in ignoble defeat. I grant you my final respect. Rest now, you who were once venerated as the Sword Emperor." In the end, Leonard surrendered. He lay back on the scorched ground and sighed, never expecting things to end so easily. If only he could do it all over again. Could my sword have reached you? And so the legend of the Sword Emperor Ren ended in total defeat. Yet in that moment, a new legend was about to begin in a place no one would expect. Night fell, and under the full moon there were murmurs. "Is he still breathing? Damn it! Should we go fetch an instructor?" After the fainting, Leonard jolted awake. He looked around in a panic. "What the hell is this?" Leonard panted, steadying his body. "That dream again?" Someone nearby shouted. "Still alive and grinning. I thought you were dead." He looked up at the people in front of him, but something felt off. Seeing Leonard not react, the one facing him muttered, "Fine. Glad you're okay." With that, he swiftly threw a punch at Leonard, shouting, "Finish what you started earlier. You scared us, you dog." At that, Leonard's whole body stiffened in surprise. Leonard rose, gently grabbed the attacker's arm without effort. The attacker, having his blow blocked, stood dumbfounded, staring at Leonard. The two remaining guys outside had similar expressions. He actually blocked the hit? Even more surprised was Leonard. He stared wide-eyed, thinking, "Is my body reacting automatically? What the hell is happening?" The attacker's wrist trembled under Leonard's grip. He withdrew his hand, drew his sword, and cursed, "You damned name-dropper." The man took a run-up and lunged quickly toward Leonard. "Don't get cocky. It was just a fluke this time. Got it?" Saying that, he swung hard, but Leonard had already leaned back and evaded in time. This time there was no denying it. The man cried out in shock. He dodged that again? He glanced at his own sword-bearing arm, thinking that his body was acting on instinct. Next, Leonard spun around with practiced grace, and decisively delivered a finishing move that left his opponent writhing with eyes rolled back. After felling the target, Leonard assessed the situation. It's as if something is guiding each movement of mine. On this side, the gray-haired guy exclaimed in disbelief, "Impossible!" The brown-haired one added, "This isn't luck. He's completely toying with us like prey." The gray-haired man hastily denied it to calm himself. "Must be a joke. How could the kid who couldn't even fight back earlier suddenly be like this?" The other nodded in agreement. He's like a completely different person. Then his face went ashen. I don't understand what's going on anymore. The brown-haired man took a ready stance, reminding his comrades to be careful. Hey, don't chicken out. Isn't this the cripple we beat to a pulp earlier? With that, the brown-haired man leapt into the air, swinging his sword. Let's go finish him off. Leonard suddenly smiled. So that's it. Now I understand. I've remembered everything. As he charged in, Leonard decisively struck, sending the man's body flying backward. Then Leonard took a running jump into the air and unleashed a single, decisive downward sword stroke, ending it all. Having dealt with the group, Leonard calmly sheathed his sword. All this time he had been plagued by those strange dreams. Dreams of a man standing beneath a blood-red sky, fighting with flowing robes and white hair billowing. Those dreams tormented Leonard so much that he couldn't concentrate on training. He had long hated them, but now his mind was completely clear. The life and death of that man unfolded vividly. Incredible as it was, there was only one conclusion. He confidently concluded, I am the reincarnation of Run, the Sword Emperor from another world. Leonard looked at his hands and murmured in surprise, I can't believe reincarnation is real. Looking up at the starry night sky, he wondered whether his final desperate wish had come true. Suddenly, Leonard furrowed his brow and looked down at his arm, complaining of the ache despite only swinging the sword a few times. It was the result of years of practicing incorrectly. Leonard's face grew serious. He clenched his fist and made a determination. With these memories and supreme techniques, I will become limitless in strength. I don't know who granted Leonard this chance, but even if it was mere coincidence, it doesn't matter. Run from his previous life failed to achieve the ultimate goal, but the present Leonard will surely make it true. He will become the strongest sword emperor, surpassing even his past life. Cut to the interior of the Cadenas training grounds. In the quiet space, murmurs echoed. Those three are injured now. They'll be completely useless for the upcoming field training. The trainees had gathered in a corner to discuss how to handle it. The black-haired guy curled his lip and offered, Our combat strength will drop a bit, but it shouldn't be a big problem. It won't ruin the plan. This field exercise will be a piece of cake. Suddenly someone interrupted, making him turn his head. The other continued, I heard the one who took out all three did it alone. Number 381. I heard it was over in the blink of an eye. What ranks were the three who were beaten? They were numbers 329, 257, and 133. He objected with some worry. Those ranks are higher than I thought. Did number 381 really handle them alone? If someone like that joined another faction, the current balance of power would. Before he could finish, the scene before him froze him in place. William, radiating killing intent, leveled the tip of his sword at him and warned, Watch your mouth. Do you think I'd be swayed by trash like that? Number 381. Is it? Bring a few people to fetch him here to meet me. I'll verify myself whether he's truly a card worth playing. In Leonard's mind, the heavenly demon's words echoed again. I'll treat this as a farewell gift, sending you to the other world. The reason you couldn't reach higher realms is because you started cultivating inner power too late. In the 5 elements, fundamentals and balance are paramount. If you had built that foundation from youth, the outcome might have been different. Leonard had recognized the root of the problem. His gaze grew deeper and more resolute than ever. While channeling, he silently affirmed, Indeed, by the time I began inner cultivation in my previous life, the golden era was already gone. But if I start building a solid foundation from this age, immediately, a bright green energy began to whirl fiercely around his body like a potent sphere of light. Leonard decided on his next step. First, I need to create a body capable of absorbing mana. He sat motionless at the center of an ancient formation, his whole body wrapped in surging azure spiritual energy that cleansed and rebuilt each blood vessel. After a while, the energy stabilized. Leonard looked at his hand. Success! He clenched his fist. Although he had been unmatched in his past life, at this age he still felt his inner power was far too lacking. Leonard glanced at the crest hanging on the wall and wondered, what exactly is the Cadenas bloodline? In the dining hall, the trainees queued up to get their food. Leonard ate heartily, thinking to himself, These dishes actually suit my taste. Growing stages require proper nutrition. I mustn't skip any meals. Lost in thought, a voice snapped Leonard back. Number 381. I heard about the fight yesterday. I didn't expect you to have such a temper. You usually eat like a cat. So why are you eating so well today? You've cleared your plate. Hearing the call, he turned and asked, "You're number 8, right?" The other immediately shook his head in denial. "No, I'm number 7 now." He tossed his chin arrogantly. "I just knocked out number 7 the other day." Leonard calmly wiped his mouth, silently grasping the rule here. If you win a challenge, you steal the higher rank. As if remembering something, he asked, "Anyway, did you come to see me about something?" He cheerfully shared. "Why so cold? I actually came to bring you good news. Haven't you noticed the atmosphere getting tense lately? The high-ranked crews are trying to expand their territory. You know how it is. Numbers 1, 2, and 4 are." Leonard slowly pulled out a chair and stood up. He carried his tray toward the kitchen and replied, "I know. Diamond golden-eyed. Those direct descendants of House Cadenas, right?" Seeing the group behind paying attention, number 7 whispered, "Keep your voice down so others don't hear. Watch your mouth." Leonard cut to the chase, speaking seriously. "Get to the point." He clutched his head in frustration and complained, "God, are you stupid or crazy? You've suddenly become a completely different person." Sweat began to run down his face. Seeing Leonard about to leave, the self-proclaimed number 7 mustered courage and blurted out a stream of words. "Listen, there's definitely a reason they're expanding. If we don't unite, we won't survive." He paused and added, "So what do you want me to do?" He stepped closer and earnestly proposed. "Out of 100 people, more than half have surrendered and joined them. But there's no rule stopping a secondary line from forming its own gang. Is there? The plan now is for me to team up with high ranks like numbers 3 and 9. If you join and lend a hand." Leonard shook his head flatly and answered, "I refuse. I have no intention of joining any faction. Still, your information is useful. Consider me indebted to you this time." At Leonard's reaction, number 7 was completely bewildered. He muttered, "Did this guy hit his head somewhere? This definitely isn't the number 381 I knew." Under the sunset, the bright golden badge with a deep red gem at its center glittered against the black flag, exuding the solemnity and nobility of a prestigious family. Leonard maintained a composed demeanor and strolled leisurely down the long corridor. Suddenly he stopped, glanced back, and asked the other with nonchalance, "Do you need something from me?" The other approached with a provocative tone. "Of course I do. Enjoying your meal? Are you number 381? I've got a mountain of things I want to tell you." He pointed the tip of his sharp sword at him and reminded, "Big boss number 1 wants to see you. The commotion from yesterday will be forgiven as an exception. Seeing you refuse number 7's invite, boss number 1 seems quite impressed with you." Hearing this, Leonard thought, everything here gets leaked to number 1? These kids take their childish organizations way too seriously. He lifted his foot and continued walking forward. Before leaving, Leonard threw back a line, "I don't care. Get lost." The blonde couldn't hold back and lunged to attack. "What did you just say? Trash like you dare talk back." The other similarly yelled, "I'll make you regret those words." From start to finish, Leonard stood his ground, seemingly unmoved and resolute. As the opponent swung his sword, Leonard nimbly leaned aside to dodge, thinking, he closed that distance with a single kick? For someone his age to have such physicality is extraordinary. He clenched his fist, began to channel his energy, and the power inside his body surged violently. Right after that buildup, Leonard decisively launched a powerful punch aimed straight at his opponent's face with unstoppable speed. He broke out in a cold sweat, gritting his teeth in shock. "Bare hands? What's wrong with this guy?" Then the brown-haired man was distracted by a wooden sword whizzing past. Seizing the moment of his lapse in guard, Leonard drove a strong punch into his abdomen, leaving the opponent reeling. That blow sent the badge on his chest flying off. Leonard followed its trajectory with his eyes and assessed, "Not top tier, but number 157 skill is impressive. Just as I thought, there's definitely something hidden in the Cadenas bloodline." With the brown-haired one dealt with, Leonard glanced at the other. Seems like you've realized you don't stand a chance, right? Want to keep going. The other tightened his grip on his sword pommel, hissing through his teeth. Shut up. I'm much stronger than you. Don't act high and mighty. Come at me. After checking his badge number, Leonard darted forward like a gust of wind. I understand. Before he knew it, Leonard had closed in right behind him and swung his fist, declaring, Very well, I'll oblige you. In the silent space, a crisp, metallic crack rang out, cold and decisive like a bell sealing the match's outcome. The badge with his number on his chest was abruptly flung straight up into the air by the force. High above, a mysterious figure had witnessed the entire scene. He toyed with his opponents as if it were a game. Fuguro curled his lips in excitement. Could he have been hiding his true strength all this time? I still can't fathom it. For a man who lived by gathering intel, his background was actually quite clear. Then Fuguro abruptly froze. Did our eyes just meet? From this distance, he still recognized he was being watched. Anyway, whatever, this looks like it could be a spectacular overthrow. Hopefully it won't follow the same tired script as last time. I'm counting on you, number 98. At present, Leonard Cadenas has risen to position number 98. In the corridor, people hurriedly ran by, urging, Move faster. Number 98 is heading to the training ground. One man rushed so quickly he bumped into Burita across from him and stammered an apology. Sorry. Boss number 1 ordered me to capture number 98 at all costs. I'm in a hurry. Burita stopped and asked coldly. Number 1 ordered you to catch number 98? Rumor has it there's been a lot of rebels lately. Seems it's true. At the training ground, the atmosphere was extremely lively. Burita scanned the scene and concluded. So number 1's lackeys were just defeated? Those were supposed to be skilled fighters, weren't they? After taking a few steps, a figure was knocked flying past, surprising her. Before Burita now, Leonard was standing alone against William's men. Shut up and be smart. Join our team, brat. He composed himself, frowned in annoyance, and repeated. I told you I refuse. Number 1 may be strong, but is he stupid? How many times do I have to say it? With that, Leonard continued to unleash a move that felled the man before him. While the man was distracted, Leonard swiftly reached out and snatched the badge from his chest. Having finished, Leonard coldly tossed out, I'll take your rank. The man could only grit his teeth and curse in helplessness. Having witnessed the whole display, Burita calmly walked over to him. She smiled and cheerfully said, Congratulations. You've climbed to position number 25 now. Leonard asked in surprise. You know me? Burita returned to her cold demeanor, her sharp eyes piercing him. No, but I can see through you, from that strange body to the flow of energy within, and even the number 25 you're holding. Hearing that, Leonard moved closer and murmured, Clairvoyance? That's an interesting ability. He put a hand to his chin, thinking. Seeing internal energy means at least reaching the mind's eye realm. At this age, the mind's eye lets you see through a person's true self and intentions. An extremely powerful weapon when facing stronger foes. Indeed, a fearsome ability for the number 2 rank. As if remembering something, Burita asked, Hey, why do you hate forming a team so much? I don't think you can get through tomorrow's training alone. While the two were talking, William stepped forward and cut in. Hey, that's enough. Are you stupid? Planning to spill all our information to him for sure. He showed no mercy and stomped down on the arm of the lackey lying on the ground. William tightened his sword and coldly spat with killing intent. In the end, I had to come here myself. What useless trash. Can't even handle a trivial task. Hearing this, Leonard finally realized. So this is that famous number 1? His presence is no joke. He also took a step toward him and answered coldly. I'm curious what kind of person you are. Leonard stopped, murderous intent radiating strongly. So we finally meet. Number 1. I still have fight left. Want to try me? Seeing that challenging reaction, William angrily shouted. Who do you think you're talking to? Watching the scene, Burita couldn't help but clutch her stomach and laugh. She wiped a tear from her eye corner and chimed in. You're entertaining. It's the first time I've seen someone talk to number 1 in that tone. Is everyone here finished? It seems number 25 doesn't want to follow anyone. Training starts tomorrow. William turned to leave, but before he disappeared he coldly warned, "Don't regret having provoked me." Number 25. Leonard replied nonchalantly without a second thought, "Be my guest." He then squinted slightly, thinking to himself that this information should only be known to direct line descendants. A training where students must proactively recruit allies, so tomorrow will be a coordinated team exercise. At a clearing deep in the forest, Bluno asked the person opposite with curiosity, "Have all the students gathered?" The assistant raised his hand respectfully and reported, "Report. Everyone is present." However, when forming teams, a rather strange student appeared. He calmly demanded, "Give me the details." The assistant collected himself and recounted, "Sir, he joined the training alone and didn't join any group." Bluno was a little surprised. "Alone? Did you clearly explain the exercise content to them?" The assistant nodded in confirmation. "Yes. It's a field excursion in the Katanas Great Forest. During the exercise they must arrange shelter, find food, and hunt, entirely self-sufficient. We also announced there is no limit to the number of members per team." As expected, the other students had formed factions under the 4 leaders. The largest group was Team A led by number 1. Next was Team B of number 2, the second largest in size. Team C consisted of students who were not direct line descendants. Team D, led by number 4, focused mainly on tactics. And Team E, led by number 483, gathered those whom no group accepted. The assistant paused for a moment, then looked at Leonard's resume. He blurted out, "Number 25, Leonard Katanas. He forms Team F by himself." At that moment Leonard scanned the situation with a glance. This training area is really vast. To make use of the terrain, I need to seize a base early. Number 25. It was unclear when Bluno had appeared. He approached and asked, "Is that all you packed? You only brought some water and a few biscuits. That might be fine now, but are you sure you can hold out?" Leonard glanced over and replied nonchalantly, "Yes, no problem. Isn't the purpose of this exercise survival and self-sufficiency?" He thought to himself that in reality this was just a struggle to grab rank badges. In the silence, footsteps grew steadily closer. Dylan cut between them. "May I speak privately with number 25 for a moment, Master Bluno? After all, going into the forest alone is dangerous in many ways. If you're willing, number 25, would you like to join Team D?" Leonard replied with disdain. "Get lost? It's none of your business." He glanced at the defeated beast behind him and observed, "Cunning fellow. Pretends to care but plans to use me then abandon me when danger comes." Seeing Leonard unmoved, Dylan tried to persuade, "Honestly, I don't get what you're thinking. Other teams have at least dozens of people. Team A has over 100. I think it's a good offer for you." He held his ground and bluntly answered, "You don't need to understand, and I have no obligation to explain. Simply put, I'm not interested in your group outing." Watching this, Dylan had his own conclusion. "Now I see why number 1 hates you so much. It's the same type clashing with the same type. That arrogance of yours, you'll regret it. If you won't listen, I'll have to use force to persuade you. Consider this my way to gain advantage in the exercise. Sorry about that." As he spoke, he accelerated rapidly toward Leonard. Although he smiled, an implicit, deadly threat lay behind it. Dylan repeated, "Join my team." Then he decisively swung his sword hard at Leonard's position. When he realized Leonard had managed to dodge, Dylan cried in disbelief, "What? He dodged my strike." On this side, Leonard had already assumed a stance, ready to attack. In an instant he leapt into the air and coldly said, "Interesting footwork." Then Leonard decisively struck the back of Dylan's neck with a crushing blow. Watching him collapse, he thought to himself, "Even when swinging his sword I sensed no killing intent or hostility from him. Could he have reached the realm of a supreme assassin at this age?" Bang! Dylan's body collapsed, producing a loud echo in the silent space. Immediately after, a hand quietly rested on his shoulder. Bluno said in a deep voice with praise, "Nice reflexes, number 25. However, since this wasn't an official match, any rank promotion won't be recognized. Fine, as the smallest group, I'll allow you to depart." Leonard nodded and replied, Understood, master. He observed the man for a moment and thought to himself, that chief instructor. I couldn't sense his presence at all. He's truly powerful. Even in my previous life, I would have struggled facing people like him. No wonder they're the continent's top sword clan. They're so young yet already showing outstanding talent. So many geniuses appearing at once. There must be some secret in the Cadenas bloodline. Leonard accelerated forward at an astonishing speed. He told himself seriously, for now, focus on the training. First task, find a prime shelter. In the haze of dust, a voice rang out. Are you number 25? At that moment, surveillance systems began appearing before Bluno. He sternly reminded, report the situation as soon as it begins. The assistant presented respectfully. Yes, this time the groups clashed unusually early. Team A under number 1 attacked Team C right after entering the forest. Rather than search for a base, Team C was taken by surprise and was completely defeated. Heavy, rapid footsteps pounded the dry ground. The assistant continued evenly, detailing the battle. Except for number 3 who luckily escaped, the rest were wiped out. Having heard this, he nodded excitedly. Interesting. I thought he was shrewd, but I didn't expect such a quick ambush. The assistant added, indeed, it's understandable since their numbers were overwhelmingly superior. Bluno then put his hand on his chin and pondered. However, he certainly didn't rely on numbers alone. Team A is so large they'd face supply issues if the fight dragged on. He exploited his numbers to strike preemptively, while the other groups hadn't stabilized their formations. Instead of seeking shelter as usual, William chose a surprise attack. That shows he's not only strong but also tactically savvy. Bluno then shifted focus. All right, now report on the situation of Team B and Team D. The assistant looked at the system and calmly recounted. After seeing Team C's defeat, Team B and Team D decided to ally. Their common goal is to defeat the strongest, number 1. He seemed quite pleased with this result. Bluno slightly curved his mouth. A wise decision. These students reacted much faster than the previous cohort. They seem promising. Are the remaining groups under your supervision? Give me your report, Instructor Colin. She had been silent until now, finally called by name. Colin nodded and answered clearly, yes, Master Bluno. Team E hasn't made any significant progress after electing their leader. But, as for number 25 of Team F, I honestly don't know where to begin explaining. A flash of memory surfaced. While she was watching from a distance, Leonard suddenly called out Colin's name. Colin was slightly stunned in surprise. She thought, did he just call my name? My stealth technique is top among the instructors. Leonard didn't waste words. He glanced at her and asked, I have a question. Hearing that, Colin confirmed what she suspected. The boy had discovered her long ago. Finally, she leaped down from the tree to the ground. Colin folded her arms and replied, all right, what do you want to ask? Number 25. Leonard turned his gaze to one side and shared. As you can see, it seems this cave already has an owner, but I want to use it to rest for the night. Is this beast raised by House Cadenas? I'm afraid that if I accidentally injure it or kill it, it'll cause trouble. Colin observed the Diagoff and silently concluded that yes, it was a wolf that House Cadenas had domesticated fairly safely. But a normal trainee couldn't defeat it. If anything happens, I'll step in to save him and see if he's bluffing. Thinking one thing but answering another, she said to him, it's fine. This is part of the challenge. If you can defeat it, you may take the cave as a place to sleep or as a storage area as you wish. That is, provided you can beat it. As soon as it saw the two of them, Diagoff began to snarl in anger. It let out a roar and then lunged swiftly toward Leonard's position. Sensing the imminent danger, he tightened his grip on the sword into a ready stance. For a domesticated beast, your skill is pretty good. Fine, I'll go easy on you a little. Leonard decisively hacked at Diagoff, declaring confidently, because I can't find a better place to sleep than this. Sorry. Took the hit and gritted its teeth in pain. Diagoff scraped its paws against the ground to barely keep its balance. His pupils flared with rage. Diagoff let out a thunderous growl. Then it erupted with primal power, a strong green energy spreading throughout the space. From start to finish, Leonard calmly watched and assessed. Killing intent? Has it lost control? If I hold back and it gets hurt, the instructor will be in trouble too. Leonard tightened his sword hilt and accelerated toward Diagoff. This will probably hurt a bit. He quickly flicked the blade up under its chin. Next, Leonard spun his body and performed a somersault in midair, confidently declaring, "I won't be eaten by you that easily." With that, Leonard finished everything with a powerful knee strike. Watching the scene, Colin was stunned. He defeated it in the blink of an eye. Didn't I need to intervene to save him? Is this really the power of a trainee? After the struggle, the atmosphere returned to its original quiet. Contrary to its previous ferocity, Diagoff now behaved like a well-behaved pet, following his commands. "Wait!" Leonard pointed and ordered. "Sit down." It immediately plopped down with a naive look. He continued, "Give me your paw." Diagoff didn't resist and extended its claw before Leonard. He whispered praise. "Good boy." He petted it and then turned to Colin with a request. "Instructor Colin, since it seems very attached to me, may I take it with me during the exercise?" She didn't answer immediately but thought, "That strength, that decisive, unwavering resolve. If someone like that tamed Diagoff then." Colin cautiously replied, "That's a bit hard to accept. However, taming it does prove your ability. I will agree, but with conditions. It is forbidden to let it participate in battles. Using it for transport or scouting is allowed." Leonard adjusted his collar and answered, "I planned that from the start." Before leaving, Colin called back, "Then watch it closely. Don't let it harm the other trainees." With everything settled, he squinted slightly and said, "That technique seems pretty useful. Now, shall we actually start the training? You go find food." After moving for a while, Leonard stopped and made a decision. A fork in the road? Split into two groups. If you find anything interesting, bring it back. It doesn't have to be food. With that, Leonard and Diagoff quickly went their separate ways. On this side, a gloomy voice made number 438 panic. "Is it all over?" He stumbled back muttering, "Monster!" William shoved his hands into his pockets, surveyed the scene, and sneered. "These trash can call themselves cat-and-ass blood? They're hopeless. But the card-holding spots are already full anyway. You're lucky. Next time we meet, I'll eliminate you immediately." Number 438 trembled with anger. He cursed inwardly. "Damn it, I can't believe even all of Team E together couldn't beat him alone. I knew from the start we had no chance. But at this rate we're just prey for others. I don't want that. I was forced to be captain. What am I supposed to do now?" Number 438's gaze halted toward the rear, and the team members timidly asked, "Captain, what should we do now?" One of them spoke up, "We were lucky this time, but if another group attacks, we're done. Is that going to be our end?" Number 438 tried to steady himself and reassure everyone. "Come on. Cheer up and go find something to eat. If we hide and wait for the right moment, maybe we'll still have a chance." As he finished, one man's face suddenly went pale. "What is that?" Number 438 followed his teammates' gaze. Why were they showing looks of horror? Before them, without anyone noticing when, a giant bear had appeared. He worried, "We're about to become prey for the beasts." Number 438 cried helplessly, "This kind of death is unbearable." Suddenly, a series of rapid footsteps echoed. Leonard, fired up, closed in right behind the monster. Number 438 screamed a fearful warning. It seemed the bear had noticed the disturbance. It glanced back in anger. Before it had a chance to attack, Leonard decisively delivered the finishing blow. Under the pressure radiating from him, number 438 lifted his hands to steady himself. He suddenly shouted, "You are?" Before number 438 stood the image of Leonard proudly standing atop the felled monster. He blurted out, "Number 25." Seeing Leonard's calm demeanor, number 438 muttered angrily, "Cold-blooded beast, are you going to steal anything else from us?" He looked at the fallen animal with regret. Food for the next few days gone. Number 438 sulked, not noticing Leonard approaching, still cursing inwardly. "You're a monster without humanity." Leonard came closer and asked, "Are you all right?" Number 438 was a little bewildered by his concern. Leonard slowly repeated, "I'm asking if you are hurt." Number 438 stammered in reply, "I'm not hurt." Hearing that, Leonard turned his back and walked away decisively. That's good then. Number for 38, puzzled by this action, said, Wait, aren't you going to take the card? Leonard turned back and replied nonchalantly, I only stopped by because the situation looked dangerous. His words surprised everyone. My goal isn't about winning or losing but about training myself. I can find my own food, and I'm not attached to the card. Leonard bluntly stated his direction. Besides, if I wanted to win, I'd choose a more suitable opponent. Number 438 asked, I see. I heard you climbed to rank 25 in a short time, right? He said seriously. I owe you this time. That expression from him surprised Leonard. Because of you, I didn't get eliminated early. Leonard tried to explain. That's not what I meant, but then they were drawn to something else. What's that? A wolf with piercing eyes was baring its fangs toward them. At the moment, it was holding a girl tightly in its mouth. Everyone panicked and exclaimed, A wolf! Leonard remained calm and shouted, Sit down! The initially terrifying giant wolf obediently sat down. To everyone's astonishment, spat the girl out. They immediately realized who she was. Number 3, seeing her battered state. Number 438 was shocked. Impossible. Famous number 3 reduced to this? Leonard paid no mind to the chatter. He focused on number 3's condition. Her wounds are severe. A steel warrior like her beaten to this. What kind of monster did it? Or was it number 1 or number 2 who struck? The wolf continued to hold number 3 in its mouth to protect her, and Leonard turned to question number 438. You really don't want to be eliminated, right? Number 438 answered clearly. Yes, so what? Do you think that's cowardly? Leonard pointed to the bear he had slain and offered. Then I'll give you this instead of taking the badge. This place should have enough provisions for you. He brightened with joy. Really? That's great. Leonard's final remark left them stunned for a moment. All right, deal done. Also, don't be too obsessed with numbers. Number 438 watched his retreating figure and remarked, Number 25, maybe he's truly a good person. Perhaps I misunderstood something. After being treated, Number 3 woke up looking confused at her surroundings. She asked, Where is this? She looked at her bandaged arm and wondered, Am I being treated? Who is it? Nearby. Leonard's voice rang out. Awake! Number 3 quickly acted without hesitation. She rushed at Leonard to attack, but he easily parried. Leonard only paid attention to the wound on her leg and said, Your leg seems fine now. Don't waste your strength. Rest. Number 3 snapped sharply. Return my badge. Leonard glanced behind her. Number 3 followed his gaze and noticed her badge was still lying over there. Intact. The air between them suddenly grew awkward and indescribable. Number 3 stammered her thanks. I'm grateful you saved my life, but I can't give you the badge. Leonard ignored her and moved closer to the fire, replying casually, I never intended to take it. He held out a juicy roasted meat skewer and invited, Sit here and eat. Number 3 exclaimed in surprise. Really? He said slowly, Don't hesitate. There's plenty. Leonard thought to himself that he couldn't let a child go hungry. At all costs he had to help her recover. Number 3 hungrily devoured the meat skewer, then listened up to his question. You're on Team C, right? What happened to those wounds? Did you run into monsters? She replied irritably. No, right after we finished setting up our base. Team A ambushed us and wiped everyone out. She recalled it with self-reproach. We couldn't mount any counterattack. It was brutal. As captain, I feel ashamed for being unable to do anything. Leonard did not deny that defeat. You really had no chance of winning. He privately considered the battle. Fighting with overwhelming numbers is a very different reality. You're still inexperienced. Even so, there are ways to win. With the knowledge of a sword emperor, he realized William had used an opening strike and ambush tactics against youngsters unfamiliar with battlefield maneuvers. Leonard asked about her injuries. Was your right arm crippled by number 1? Number 3 explained. Yes. Compared to number 2, number 1 is on a completely different level. My team lacking strength was unavoidable, but she sighed indignantly. I didn't even get to fight properly. I feel so frustrated. Seeing number 3's stubborn demeanor, Leonard smiled with interest. Even knowing the gap in strength, her fighting spirit hadn't faded. He quietly judged she might become a true warrior. He ate while offering his assessment. Anyway, the situation is really bad. At this rate, Teams B and D collapsing is only a matter of time. Number 3 wondered whether they'd formed an alliance. Leonard slowly explained, the morale of a faction that has tasted victory will surge, and that's scarier than numerical advantage. And even if alliances form, small teams still can't overcome the cumulative wins of a large unit. In such cases, ambush tactics are the optimal option. But in his mind, he was certain William had prepared for that. Leonard sighed. Really? Must we go this far against kids? He gave a directive. Aim at Team A's weak point. Number 3 asked, puzzled, what that weak point was. Leonard answered, concentrate all firepower on Number 1. Team A operates entirely around him. Because he's the central pillar, their cohesion and decisions are quick. But if that pillar breaks, they'll instantly become a chaotic mob. Leonard guessed she wanted revenge. Number 3, being predictable, didn't hesitate to reply, of course I do. Leonard, confident, instructed, then trust me. She paused to think for a moment, then asked seriously, should I call you Captain from now on? Meanwhile, William's forces were on the move. William led, while Number 5 beside him cautioned, don't be hasty. Time is on our side. If we maintain the situation, victory will surely be ours. William replied slowly, it seems the outcome will soon be decided. Something caught his attention. William signaled, and Number 5 shouted loudly to announce, stop! Prepare to fight. The whole group took up battle positions, ready to meet the enemy. William called out, it's wise to hide if you know your limits, but if you see there's no hope of winning, why not surrender? Stop hiding. Come out now. Slowly, another group emerged, surprising William. So you found us? Burita and Dylan stood above, looking down at the people below. This majestic lion has a keener nose than I thought. That remark put William on high alert. Burita and Dylan advanced with a taunt. Or maybe its nose is more like a dog's, huh? William, unafraid, retorted sharply. Those who stand at the top can easily see through the hearts of the lowly. Your petty tricks are not worth my attention. He confidently displayed his contempt. I didn't expect filth like you to dare stand before me. You are truly a stain on the Cadenas lineage. Burita took an attacking stance. Are you always pretending to be superior in front of others? You don't look like a dog. You look more like a peacock fanning its tail. William rebutted with righteous wrath. This is what majesty looks like. Useless woman. Burita and Dylan lunged forward simultaneously, and William did not hesitate to meet them. Thus the fight erupted. A clash between commanders. Burita's forces also surged forward, intent on wiping out Team A. William's group was no less ready to fight. Everyone tightened their defenses, determined not to let them break through. Both sides plunged into fierce combat. William's powerful counterattack left Burita astonished and wondering. What on earth is he? She quickly regained her composure to analyze the fight. Not only is he fast, but every strike is devastatingly heavy. Even when I block, my wrist goes numb and my eyes can't follow the movement. Burita exclaimed in annoyance. What is he even? She drew William's attention and successfully created an opening for Dylan to strike. This monster is terrifying. Dylan's surprise attack was easily neutralized by him. William was extremely irritated by the duo's performance. He grabbed Dylan's sword and squeezed it. Did you two come here just to put on these cat and mouse acts? William's overwhelming strength left them stunned. He surged forward and drove a knee into Dylan's stomach. Burita saw the opportunity and seized it. There's the opening. She judged and chose her move. The area behind him will be hard to defend. I can see every muscle twitch. A thought flashed through her mind. Wait, such a big opening is strange. Don't tell me. That thought made her attack slow down. Had he been setting a trap for me from the start? Burita quickly stopped. William calmly lowered his sword, which also disrupted her defense. He casually offered praise. At least you're better than Number 4, but you realized it too late. Contrasting William's ease, Burita was still struggling to parry his blows. Even eyes that can read movement aren't perfect, are they? William cast a scornful glance and taunted. In my eyes, your movements are too slow, unlike that number 25. He increased his force and shattered her sword. Burita was utterly defeated by his overwhelming power. Provoke him as much as you like. So that's all you have? William bluntly declared. Accept defeat. Number 2. You have no chance of beating me. He was confident that he was the victor in this training exercise. Leonard's appearance shocked the two. You judged too soon, he said. Burita exclaimed at the sight. Leonard nonchalantly walked up to them. Number 25. William, seeing that, demanded, You? What are you doing here? He tossed aside the man he'd just defeated and replied, as if it were nothing. He didn't hesitate to say, I just came to give back what you did to my team. William exclaimed in surprise. Number 5, he snapped irritably. Team? Don't make me laugh. You shouldn't have any teammates at all. Leonard explained slowly. First, that was true. The commotion around them drew William's attention, and Leonard's group burst out to attack. Now take a good look. William's team was easily knocked down. These are the weaklings you always look down on. This is the uprising of those you deemed worthless. Number 438 held someone else's badge in his hand, beaming with joy, back a while earlier when number 438's group received the bear. With this much, rations were safe now. Everyone, thanks to this we can survive. They cheered happily. Wonderful. Long live number 25. Number 3 cut in. Sorry to interrupt your joy, but number 438 exclaimed in astonishment. Number 25 and number 3 too? Why did you two suddenly appear? He grabbed the rations anxiously and blurted. You're not going to take this place back, are you? Leonard made a proposal. Why don't you form an alliance with us? He was hesitant about Leonard's suggestion. What do you mean? Our team is weak. If we join, we'll just be a burden. He reminded number 438. Hey, did you forget what I said? Leonard stood before them, firmly asserting his view. I told you not to let those numbers bind you. You all are warriors who went through Cadenas formal training. So what does that matter? He tried to explain to boost their confidence. Training together means similar growth rates. Ranks are nothing but labels. Number 438 listened warily. What the hell are you talking about? How could I be the same as you? Leonard emphasized. You carry Cadenas blood too. Your talent and potential are more than enough. He elaborated. Those explosive prodigies are only a minority. Aside from that, your real strength is comparable. Leonard used himself and number 3 as examples. Look at me and number 3. Number 3 came from a branch line, but she climbed up here by her own effort. He tried to instill confidence in number 438. Me too. I crawled from rank 381 up to 25 on my own. Haven't the numbers you value proven that? Leonard kept encouraging them. Only a few are ranked above you. You have more than enough strength to surpass the rest. The group with number 438 grew even more upset. Don't joke. We wear these numbers because we can't win. Even among equals, we're the worst. He shouted, cutting them off. What you need isn't just strength. Leonard tried to change their mindset. What you're missing now is courage and belief in yourselves. Have you ever tested your limits? Leonard proclaimed loudly. Have you ever trusted yourselves even once? If not, then I'll place my trust in you. His words seemed to have some effect on them. You can win. Therefore Class F officially offers this proposal to Class E. Leonard held out his hand and reiterated the offer. Why don't we work together to defeat that number 1? Number 3, standing above, commanded, Charge! We can win because number 25 believes in us. Let's seize the victory. The newly confident people surged forward. Forward! William stood below looking up, speaking with a mocking tone. Number 3, I can't believe you shook hands with the lowly. Don't you have any shame? She snapped back. What did you just say? Lowly? Number 3 proudly recounted. Listen carefully, I fought him once. He caught my kick with his bare hand as if it were nothing. Leonard heard that and let her boast. His technique is far more refined than yours. William, angered by their confidence, fired back. I don't cooperate with the weak. I simply follow someone stronger than me. Besides, You being strong doesn't mean your team is strong, does it? Leonard pointed toward number 438 and reminded them, Look, my team is tearing apart your lackeys. Over their number 438 and the others were celebrating together. We won. Suddenly a laugh rang out, leaving Leonard puzzled. Burita then offered to join. All right, I get it. I surrender. Let me join Team F with. Dylan nearby followed suit. Me too, he insisted stubbornly. Better that than losing to someone I dislike. William found their actions infuriating. Dylan, you're betraying me too? He shouted loudly, reprimanding them. Do you all carry Cadenas blood with no pride at all? Leonard taunted him. What are you saying? Who here doesn't carry Cadenas blood? Stop being stubborn and admit defeat. William remained resolute in his ideals. Don't toy with me. He pointed the tip of his sword at Leonard, number 25. He made a high-stakes offer, wagering the victory of all of Team A against Team F. Fight me right here. William, full of confidence, said, I'll personally show you the gap in our strength. Don't you dare run. He didn't hesitate to reply. That's been my intention from the start. He drew his weapon. Though that line should really be spoken to you. Leonard assumed a confident stance. Come on then, I'll open your eyes. Bluno outside was also watching the duel closely. The one-on-one between number 25 and William began. Colin considered it the true final. Bluno eagerly awaited the match's outcome. Can't wait to see if number 1 wins as expected, or if this new recruit will turn the tables. Maybe we'll witness the birth of a genius worthy of being team captain. The two launched into the duel, constantly attacking and defending, the pace growing faster and tenser. While defending, Leonard assessed William's skill. His swordsmanship is solid. His striking power is terrifying. Burita's impressive to endure those blows. Just blocking them would shred one's arms. He could clearly see all of his movements. Yet, Leonard easily predicted his attack patterns. He's still just a trainee strong, but his lines of attack are too predictable. In an instant, one of William's moves caught him off guard. He realized this was how Burita had been defeated. A strike from a hidden angle no one expected. Bluno, seeing that, also exclaimed, That was unexpected. He wondered if number 25 had seen through number 1's technique already. To recognize it so quickly is impressive. He pondered Leonard's talent. Unbelievable. Someone without innate gift pulling off what Burita couldn't survive. Leonard examined each of his strikes. During the clash just now I noticed, but he's not merely swinging his sword with raw strength. You suspected William's special ability was an invisible, formless kind of power. The two of them enveloped their swords with a kind of power and attacked continuously. Leonard watched every small detail. A blade path coming from an angle no one would normally generate force from. He judged by that muscular frame, even a normal trainee, not to mention an experienced one, would let their guard down thinking an attack couldn't come from that angle. Leonard realized that at that moment he was using willpower to concentrate force into his hand and sword, producing an unimaginably destructive strike. William swung a heavy blow that radiated a blue light, but Leonard's sword blocked it. It was truly a kind of power that defied ordinary rules. Leonard privately praised, This kid's something. William also realized, Bastard, you saw through my power? The two swords collided again. Facing Leonard, William stated firmly, And that's not all. You've been holding back, haven't you? William shouted, demanding, Why only reveal it now? He replied calmly, Let my sword answer that for you. Seeing that, he praised him, truly the bearing of a ducal household. William smiled and said, Very well. William's next strike left him full of astonishment. Leonard saw through that move, but he also acknowledged William's ability. He uses willpower not only to boost damage but to launch long-range blade energy. His number 1 position is not undeserved. William dragged his sword arrogantly across the ground and shared, Do you understand the meaning of this attack? Don't blame me, number 25. Leonard retorted to that arrogance. You're overconfident. He remained utterly calm, ready to receive his fierce assault. Let's see what you can really do. A pale blue aura spread over him with intense surging energy. All right, I'll grant your wish. Leonard calmly devised a counter-strategy. With his weakened body he couldn't use the power he once did, and he couldn't risk drawing attention by using that external force. Leonard tightened his grip on the sword and prepared to strike. So the only thing he could do now was focus and prepare to slash him. Leonard was pushed back by William's strength. He easily dodged William's blows. Each of William's strikes carried tremendous force, but he evaded them all with ease, prompting William to exclaim, "Your feet are quick." William launched a surprise move. "Then try this one." That strike caused the tree behind them to snap and fall. The blow was immensely powerful, but Leonard's agility let him escape easily. Burita, watching closely, realized, "I get it now." Dylan, who hadn't seen clearly, asked what she meant. She explained as she watched. William used a kind of power to blind others so they couldn't see his moves. Dylan reacted annoyed. "What? That's dirty play." Burita noticed that nevertheless number 25 still dodged everything. "I think number 25 is the crafty one here for hiding his true strength." Number 3 defended him, saying he couldn't even get close. "How is that crafty?" Dylan replied, "Is that so?" He thought seriously, then shook his head. Actually, the truth was the opposite. An underling beside Bluno noticed number 25 was closing in. It looked like he was running desperately to escape number 1, but it was all part of the plan. Bluno also understood his intent. He was acting to drive number 1 into a blind spot the latter didn't realize. He likened the image to a predator casually encircling its prey. William was increasingly losing ground, his initial dominance gone, and Leonard's distance was steadily closing. He wondered when Leonard had gotten so close. "Since when did you get this near?" Leonard replied nonchalantly, "You're beaten, number 1. He unleashed a powerful strike that swept everything aside, including William. He was utterly shocked, unable to believe his defeat. "Impossible. Is it me?" He felt deeply humiliated. "I lost to a lowly brat like you?" Leonard's strike caused a considerable commotion, shaking the entire forest. William wondered, "Have I lost?" He sat on the ground, taking in the tip of Leonard's sword aimed at him. "No. This is not simply a defeat." The tip of his sword stopped before him. "But death." Leonard remained calm, showing no further malice. William sat on the ground, breathing heavily, then burst into laughter. Those around were stunned as they witnessed his surrender. "I yield, number 25." The crowd rejoiced at Leonard's success. "You won." Bluno also exclaimed in astonishment. What an unexpected scene. William's words perplexed him. "Thanks, number 25. No, new number 1. Because of you I feel much lighter now." Leonard looked at his dejected expression and asked plainly, "What do you mean?" William recalled the hardships he had endured, the educational pressures from his father, and the obsessive thought that he had to be the strongest. He was still bewildered by the remark, while William seemed to have let something go. "It's all been blown away." He reached out and clarified, "It's nothing." William conceded that it had been a good match. "Well fought, new number 1." Leonard exhaled in relief at hearing that. Leonard took his hand and helped him to his feet. "Good job, congratulations." Bluno's subordinates shouted desperately, "This must be a joke. Number 1 lost? I can't believe my eyes." They seemed to have bet among themselves. "We're done for. I'm broke. I put all my faith in number 1. Bluno was very pleased with the result. Though surprising, it was a great haul. He announced that the outdoor training session was officially over. Burita and Dylan did not gather to celebrate. They stood aside in admiration. Putting number 25 aside, "I'm truly impressed with Squad E. Yes, I have to admit that. I didn't expect him to team up with the weaker ones to take down Squad A." Everyone at this moment was cheering for Leonard. Bluno continued to watch him. Number 25 had seen through the real purpose of this training, an unexpected but deeply satisfying outcome. He ordered Colin, "Wait until everyone calms down, then prepare your gear to return." She complied. "Understood." He instructed her thoroughly and told her to contact the main family line to inform them that it's time to hold the coming-of-age ceremony. Leonard gently stroked Diagoff and said, "I have to leave tomorrow, but I can't take you with me." Hearing he was leaving, it wore a sad expression as if it didn't want to part. Seeing that forlorn look, Leonard gazed at it fondly. "I'm leaving. Are you very sad?" Seeing Diagoff so sad, He stroked and comforted him. Me too. Leonard gently ran his hand over its snout and murmured, Sorry I have to leave you here, but I promise. He looked at it and firmly declared that he would become stronger and definitely come back to fetch him. Seeing Diagoff's elated expression, he tenderly added, Then we'll play together again. Leonard turned and left, but glanced back longingly. Train so you can keep up with my journey. Looking at Diagoff's majestic form, a thought arose in him. Next time we meet, I'll give you a name. Before long, Leonard was on the carriage with William and a few others. He froze in shock when he saw everyone on the carriage staring at him. What are you doing on my carriage? Is there a rule about boarding by rank? Number 3 answered casually, I'm just following the big brother. Harita chuckled and hinted, I'm here because today's protagonist is on your team. Dylan smiled awkwardly and said, I want to talk to the one who made that comeback. William folded his arms and said in a cold, deep voice, I want to see the face of the one who jumped from 381 to number 1 in a month. Number 3 gaped in surprise. You want to talk to the top rank? Harita paused and prodded. You're oddly eager to learn, aren't you? Leonard froze, bewildered. What do you people take me for? William suddenly turned to him with a serious look. Also, I have something to tell you. Hearing that, number 3 remarked, You've changed a lot. Did the captain hit you on the head too hard? He shouted angrily, Shut up! After that, he leaned in and whispered to Leonard, Listen carefully. Starting tomorrow, supplies will be allocated based on your achievements as the true descendants of House Cadenas. We're about to return to training, but before that, the Bloodline Awakening Ceremony will take place. A Bloodline Awakening Ceremony? The Cadenas bloodline possesses organs ordinary people don't. The ceremony is a special ritual to awaken them. From now on, training will focus entirely on that. Dylan yawned and guessed that's why the Cadenas training ground only taught basics until now. Hearing this, William bluntly asked back, So what happens after those organs awaken? He hesitated briefly, then explained, They say you'll be able to manipulate mana much more freely. Like number 4 said, that's why spirits and spirit stones are banned on the training field. Spirits and spirit stones? When the awakening ends, the students will complete their preparations and join the Azure Dragon Knights. Everyone was amazed and impressed. The Azure Dragon Knights? I'm hearing this for the first time. He laughed and added quietly, This hasn't been widely announced. On paper, there are only 7 Knight Orders. Harita immediately interrupted. The Azure Dragon Order specializes in combat training. They gather elites to groom the next generation. They'll design optimal paths for each student, like letting you taste the real world early. As she finished, William turned to Leonard. So new students are classified by rank and special ability, meaning each person awakens different organs. Ah, right. He also explained seriously and in detail. To be precise, their attribute manus, and the number of cores each person has differs. Number 3, hearing this, suddenly recalled, It seems dragon blood runs in the Cadenas. Whether true or not, we don't really know. William continued seriously. Also, the fewer cores the better, right? Single core is considered the pinnacle. The fewer the cores, the more efficient the cultivation. He frowned, his eyes showing resolve. And I will certainly be the one with a single core. Seeing this, everyone chimed in. Tone down that smug look. Harita forced a smile at him. Don't pay him any mind. Someone with a single core appears once every 10 years. Leonard was silent, thinking to himself that in his previous life he had trained similarly. The 5 soul sources correspond to the 5 elements. Leonard looked at her blankly. Don't tell me there are 5 cores in total. Harita paused a moment, then explained. That's called 5 cores. The training efficiency is unimaginably poor. Each additional core doubles the resources you need. Not to mention you must balance all the cores during training. He listened and nodded, agreeing that this was why efficiency plunged so drastically. If single core is 1, dual core is 4, triple core is 8, quad core is 16, and 5 core is as much as 32 times. Those numbers are terrifying. She looked at him, her tone growing serious. You should have learned this in theory class. Are you really number 1 and totally ignorant of theory? Leonard frowned and replied calmly, Well,
Berita suddenly logged foolishly.
hey, if you're that good in real combat, who needs dry theory? Leonard sighed helplessly. The concept resembled his previous life, so he could manage. And if the old methods still worked here, it would be a huge opportunity. After a moment he asked, if one could truly cultivate all the cores, wouldn't 5 core be the strongest? Dylan chuckled naively. Theoretically maybe, but where would you find enough resources to train them? Without resources, there's a hard limit no matter how much you practice. Leonard and Burita both gave him unfriendly looks. Having many cores only brings disadvantages, so keeping single or triple core is safest. Could someone please tell him to shut up? Later Burita bluntly declared, I'd be satisfied with triple core. If someone has single core, they'd stand out too much. It's a hassle. Then someone suddenly spoke up. Leonard is 5 core. He slowly walked away, that remark still ringing in his ears. Think about it. He's talented with the sword but lacks affinity for the bloodline. Why treat him like that? Leonard helplessly told himself he'd really become famous, but in a way nobody wanted. Then he stood alone before a room, head bowed in deep thought. After a while, Leonard stroked the corner of his mouth and gave a slight wry smile. I didn't want things to end up like this either. Suddenly he sensed something unfamiliar approaching from behind him. With quick reflexes, Leonard luckily dodged the sudden attack that lunged at him. He turned to look and heard the assailant murmur, Impressive! The attacker summoned power and kept exclaiming, So young, and yet you already understand the sword? The man before him was Fabian, who stepped forward slowly. Just as the rumors said. Leonard, formerly number 381. Hearing his achievements, the man couldn't help but sigh in admiration. Reaching this level at your age is rare, a formidable refinement even without using aura. Leonard frowned and suddenly said, Isn't martial arts built from the heart and honed by the body? Fabian was momentarily stunned. Leonard pressed on confidently. I thought the presence of aura didn't determine the subtlety of martial skill. As soon as he finished, the man unconsciously laughed with delight. A moment later, Fabian looked at him and said seriously, It seems the rumors still don't capture your true ability. Good attitude. I like you. Then he clasped his hands politely and introduced himself. My name is Fabian, swordmaster and leader of the Azure Dragon Knights. I stake my honor and position to promise that you deserve a special rank. I guarantee you will receive the best treatment. Hearing that, the subordinate behind spoke up with a reminder. Commander, are you serious? But Leonard was just confirmed as 5 core at the ceremony. Fabian suddenly declared loudly, The number of cores doesn't matter. Don't let those trivial things block your path to greatness. If someone has talent, we must invest fully. So don't worry about what others say. With no other choice, the subordinate reluctantly stepped forward. You deserve special status, take this. It's filled with supplies. Take whatever you need. Leonard looked and exclaimed with delight. Is that a space pouch? Fabian exclaimed. As a special rank student, I give you the right to choose. Feel free to pick. Behind those doors are different training zones. Normally I'd assign based on your level, but this time I'll let you decide. Leonard stared intently ahead. Which place provides resources best suited to my current level? Fabian smiled and nudged his shoulder. Good question. One who avoids hardship is no true martial teacher. He looked and then slowly explained. Then go to Calabog. It's the Empire's most remote island. Even veteran knights have given up because the environment is too harsh. You can only describe it as wild and untamed. Moreover, some areas are like demon territories. Excited, Leonard touched it lightly and replied politely, Yes, thank you for your concern, Commander Fabian. Looking into the mysterious power within, he thought, the reason 5 core training is considered difficult is simply because people don't know the right way to train it. The 5 elements are both a flow and a unified whole. If I can elevate them all at once, this would be a golden opportunity to surpass my past life achievements. Leonard decided to carry his luggage inside. Fabian watched and quietly said, Good luck. As Leonard stepped in, he hastily brought a hand to his face. He looked around and confirmed, Calabogos. Suddenly a voice from behind called out, Welcome. As he turned, he saw Bradley approaching. Leonard thought, I didn't hear a sound. This guy is formidable. Bradley scanned him and asked, "Are you the student everyone's been talking about?" Leonard stepped back and bowed politely. "Nice to meet you. My name is Leonard." Bradley introduced himself courteously. "I'm Bradley. I oversee Calabagos and I'm a senior knight of Basilisk Squad, First Order of the Azure Dragon." As he spoke, Bradley gestured a sign. "Now go greet the others elsewhere. You haven't properly greeted them yet, have you?" Leonard nodded in admission. "Yes, that's right." He then walked on while giving a brief explanation. "Everyone here is a trainee knight. Even if you're the same rank, you should show courtesy to your seniors." He followed silently, thinking, from his tone, I probably don't need to be overly formal. While walking, Bradley suddenly stopped. "If you happen to run into anyone, there's no need to be afraid. There's a rule against picking on first-year recruits like you." Leonard nodded firmly. "I'll remember that." Noting his decisive attitude, he nodded with a hint of satisfaction. "Good. From today you'll have half a year under my protection, and the other half a year of self-training. After that, you must be completely self-reliant. Clear?" Leonard nodded firmly. "Yes, I understand." Bradley went on to outline a few details. "Normally your living arrangements and clothes aren't my concern, but because you are a specially favored person, I'll at least provide you with a place to sleep." Then he led him to a simple wooden room. "Here, use this room. It's stocked with the necessary supplies." Leonard looked around, then bowed politely. "Thank you." Bradley stressed particularly that aside from that, everything else was on him to handle. "In theory, as long as you have spirit stones, you can buy anything. So do as you please." Leonard nodded seriously, now very cautious. "Understood, Mr. Bradley." He nodded in satisfaction, then kindly asked, "That's the basic orientation. Do you have any questions?" He thought for a moment, then hesitated before asking, "What's the difference between the protection phase and the training phase?" Bradley answered kindly, "There's a bit of difference, but it's simple. During protection, I'll support all your activities. During the training period, I'll only ensure that no one lays a hand on you." He looked around the residence cautiously. "Are there laws here forbidding injuring or killing others?" Bradley emphasized clearly, "Killing is absolutely forbidden." Leonard nodded and stepped inside. "I understand. One last thing. Could you tell me the value of the resources I was just given?" "All right, let me take a look." Bradley led him in and instructed. "You have 3,000 low-grade spirit stones and 100 potion vials for each attribute." Seeing the pile of stones, Leonard couldn't help thinking inwardly, even for the head of a class this amount is excessive. Seeing him silent, Bradley glanced over, a thought passing through his mind. This kid Leonard is supposedly just from a branch family. Even members of the main clan might not get this much. It seems the chief really favors him. Leonard observed and asked, "Exactly what are spirit stones?" He explained patiently, "They're or filled with mana. You absorb that energy to gradually expand your mana cavity." As he spoke, he looked at Leonard's heavy luggage. With this much gear, a single core could reach tier 10, and a 5 core might just crawl to tier 5. Leonard's eyes widened in astonishment. "Tiers? Is that a kind of ranking system?" Seeing his startled face, Bradley only smiled slightly. "Now I'll explain it to you. First, I'll teach you how to recognize the cultivation levels of a martial practitioner. Martial practitioners in this world are divided into 5 major realms and 10 minor realms. Each major realm contains 10 smaller tiers, and as you surpass each level, you gradually become a true warrior. First realm, body refinement. This is the stage of training the physical body. You use the mana within to widen your mana cavity. Second realm, external force. This is the phase of training to turn refined mana into an aura to project force outside the body. Third realm, transcendence. This is the stage of sharpening one's unique self. It's hard to define because everyone differs. Fourth realm, demigod. That's a state beyond ordinary mind, allowing the will to directly influence reality. After the brief explanation, Bradley began to emphasize, "And at the 5th level, you'll undergo rebirth to reach the divine." The next stage he mentioned is called the God realm. At that, Bradley's expression suddenly darkened. However, apart from the ancestor Cadenas, no one has reached that level. He turned his back and, tone thick with anger, said, "There are arrogant fools causing trouble, claiming it's all a fabrication by the Cadenas family. Those trash must have forgotten they'd be enslaved for life if our ancestor hadn't slain that demon dragon." After a moment, Bradley stood up gently and cleared his throat. "That's enough. Now let's begin the real training." He slightly raised his hand, pointing at Leonard. "The first task is to cultivate mana. Use the resources to strengthen your body and expand your mana cavity. This exercise is simple. You just need to absorb the energy from the spirit stones." After explaining for a while, Bradley immediately opened the door to leave. "I'll let you do it yourself. Good luck." Leonard was stunned. "What?" Before he could respond, Bradley hurried off. "Wishing you success." Alone in the room, Leonard looked at the spirit stones and pondered. Just absorb them? He picked up a spirit stone to examine it. The mana here really is abundant. I could just stroll and absorb enough to train. Could absorption itself be a difficult challenge for others? Thinking that, he didn't hesitate and squeezed the spirit stone tightly. If so, then I'm incredibly lucky. The corner of Leonard's mouth curled into a self-satisfied smile. He'd done this in his previous life after all. That night, with the moon high, Leonard sat alone in the wooden room, pondering. Strange indeed. He looked at his arms, bulging with veins, and wondered. Even with experience, isn't this progress a bit too fast? Seeing results beyond expectation, Leonard sighed in frustration. He hadn't expected to reach Tier 3 after only a few short hours. At this rate, he'd hit Tier 5 in a day. After a while, he lay down on the floor in helpless thought. Thanks to retaining memories from his past life, this training is absurdly easy. The 5-core mechanism mirrors the 5 elements from before, and this absorption method is just a basic exercise. But if I finish in a day, they'll definitely be suspicious. Maybe I should hide away in the mountains to train for a few days to be discreet. Lost in this dilemma, he suddenly thought of Fabian. Wait, the chief already believes I'm an unrivaled genius. Ideas began to form in his head. If I show the techniques from my past life now, I might perfectly play the role of that prodigy. Otherwise, all this potential will be wasted. Meanwhile, outside, Yen and his companions were patrolling the forest. When they saw the wooden shelter, they couldn't help but remark, "Impressive. Hasn't that kid been locked in his room for over a month?" Exactly a month and a half. Hayden, who was with them, frowned and sneered. Maybe he's planning to seclude himself until he reaches at least Tier 5 before coming out? That's the minimum to survive in this damned place. Yen shook his head and sighed. It hurt to hear. Finding nothing interesting, the other guy suggested, "Let's go fishing, boss. We don't have time to worry about the new recruit." They walked on, complaining. "If we don't catch anything today or tomorrow, we'll have to trade spirit stones for food. Terrible. After all, our level is only that of goblins. That's going too far. We should at least beat an orc-level enemy. Both of those are the weakest types here anyway." Just as their voices faded, the wooden door stirred and slowly opened. Leonard stepped outside, looked around, and breathed a sigh of relief. He brushed dust from his face and wondered whether he should ask Bradley for a real sword. The next day, Bradley paused at that request. "You want a real sword?" He drew a sword and looked straight at Leonard. "What's your reason?" Leonard answered honestly. "I think I need to get used to a real sword instead of always using a wooden one." Bradley looked at him inwardly and began to mock. "A little stronger and already getting arrogant, huh?" No sooner had he finished speaking than Leonard punched and shattered a nearby boulder with his bare hand. The punch was so perfect that it made Bradley widen his eyes in astonishment. He was briefly surprised, then blurted praise. "I didn't expect your 5-core to reach Tier 3 in only a month and a half." Bradley hesitated, then emphasized in a rough voice, "This rate of advancement is impressive, but..." He narrowed his eyes and barked, "Don't get too carried away, apprentice." Faced with this, Leonard widened his eyes, suddenly put on the spot. "What? With my current strength?" Bradley tapped the pommel of the sword against his head. "Don't be so scared." He withdrew his angry expression and took on a caring tone of admonition. "Just don't do anything stupid." Leonard rubbed his head and took the sword. "Thank you." Bradley suddenly remembered something. "If you lose the sword, you'll have to pay me back with spirit stones." Leonard asked honestly, What if it breaks? He produced a spirit stone and smiled. Then you'll pay with spirit stones too, of course. Leonard unconsciously gave a half-smile. Fair enough, he thought. Bradley turned his back to leave, not forgetting to encourage him. Now go and do your best. Leonard carefully unfolded the map to study it. So I have a sword now. Staring at the map, he began to calculate. I should go scout the area and see. That very night, Leonard decided to head toward the ruined forest, only to see green feet stepping on the ground. Before him appeared a pack of hobgoblins with extremely ugly appearances. Suddenly a smell of fresh blood wafted through, catching their attention. At the same time, Leonard, sword in hand, stepped forward and said in a low voice, "Even if we cut them all down, the scent of blood will still be strong and unmistakable." Then he took a run up and used his strength to launch himself forward. After that, Leonard coldly delivered slashing strikes to the hobgoblins. "I'll make your passing truly easy." One that took the full brunt of his attack was split in two instantly. Leonard touched a glowing stone and thought to himself, monsters release mana in the form of spirit shards when they die. After dealing with all the hobgoblins, he narrowed his eyes. Collecting about 100 low-grade shards in a day isn't bad. Then the thought followed that he probably couldn't progress further in this ruined forest. The ruined forest, by name, is the dwelling of those cast out of the food chain. Leonard felt a bit dejected, thinking only weak E-grade things live here. He then turned his head slightly, his pupils flicking to the rear. After sensing something moving, Leonard thought, this scent is different from before. An ogre, only to see his sword-holding hand tremble involuntarily. At the same time, a thought appeared in his head. It doesn't even bother to hide its presence, which means it completely regards me as prey. Leonard then frowned, assuming a ready fighting stance. It seemed he was being looked down on by a beast. Next, he frowned challengingly. "Come here, you mutt." No sooner had the words left his mouth than a loud crash sounded, as if something had collided. Before Leonard now was the image of a ferocious wolf with razor teeth lunging. But before it could do anything, he gave it a disciplining blow. The swirling smoke gradually cleared, revealing Leonard standing with both hands raised in front of him. He then narrowed his eyes and looked at the ogre before him with contempt. "Stop barking, you damned mutt." It lunged with milky white eyes, its mouth dripping slobber as it let out a loud roar. Leonard clenched his wrist and thought, just changing attack direction and it's this terrifying. He then took a running leap to dodge the ogre's strike. Then I'll dodge them all. Suddenly gruesome veins bulged across the ogre's biceps. Leonard glanced and thought something was off. This ogre wasn't ordinary at all. Normal goblins are rank E1. When they evolve into hobgoblins, they become E2. A typical ogre would be rank D1. He was lost in thought. Usually monsters evolve once and stop, but this one's power didn't match D2 at all. So, Leonard leaned aside to dodge the ogre's attack. What he faced was an ogre rank D3. He only sneered contemptuously. "Then I have no choice." Leonard glared at it with pupils blazing red, as if finally getting a proper training session after so long. The ogre, looking somewhat panicked, swung the weapon in its hands powerfully toward its opponent, sending soil and rock flying. At the same time, Leonard lightly tapped the tip of his toe onto its axe. Such wild strikes. "Will never touch me." With that, he drove a sword blow into the ogre's head. Then Leonard swung a powerful slash straight at the monster's neck. But the ogre was unfazed. Seeing that, he frowned and thought, so hard it sparks on impact? At the same time, the beast slammed its axe down hard toward his position. But when it saw the spot it struck was only empty ground, it flinched. Leonard looked up with contempt. "Just as I thought, it's only a brute with raw strength." He thought, here's the chance. While its axe is stuck, if cutting won't work then. Suddenly he spun around and let out a loud shout that momentarily stunned the ogre. Then he frowned and told himself quietly, though its muscles and bones are very hard, this weakness cannot be protected. Leonard drove his sharp weapon in a thrust from its chin up through the top of its head. At the same time, something silver-white glittered in the sky. Leonard raised an eyebrow in amazement. What a surprise! Finding a mid-grade shard in this ruined forest? This single piece is worth 100 low-grade ones combined. If there are more like this, my internal skill will advance quickly. He then murmured, no wonder the trainee knights ignore this place. He also thought, still, I have no reason to stay here any longer. Scene change. A wooden door appears, and a pale blue light spills from the room within, showing Leonard sitting and training with intense focus, a powerful energy radiating around him. He then looked at what was in his palm and broke into a sweat, realizing things were progressing well. Had he already reached the 10th tier of body refinement? A question then formed in Leonard's mind. A 5-core bearer breaking through to tier 10 in only a few months. Clearly this will cause trouble. Is there a way to gain more resources without drawing too much attention? Suddenly a voice rang out, startling him. Hey! Do you think something happened to him? The person beside him replied, It's been 3 months, hasn't it? He doesn't seem to have stepped outside at all. Haydn wiped sweat from his brow and complained, Do we really have to check on him like this every day? Yen frowned and said in a low voice, We have to be his kind seniors first. In a famed sword clan like Cadenas, connections are the strongest weapon. A relationship formed here is worth much more than superficial ties with small families. Besides, he's the leader. I heard even the commander is keeping an eye on him. He then reminded them they should at least go greet him. Haydn, carrying a bucket of water, grumbled irritably. All right, don't nag. Then Haydn shouted, Hey recruit, you still alive? You won't train properly if you don't eat right. Seeing no movement inside, he wondered, could he be dead? One of the two sighed and suggested, Let's go home. There's no sound coming from inside. Hearing that, Leonard narrowed his eyes and thought, These so-called kind seniors are more than they seem. No wonder they keep lurking around to check. Through the gap, I can see his face clearly. If it were Leonard, the training results would be easily exposed. But if it's a senior who's been on this island for 10 years, no one would suspect. He then murmured to himself, It's been a long time. I wonder if I can still do it. Well, I'll give it a try. Leonard closed his eyes and waved his hands, manipulating the muscles and blood vessels in his face to perform a makeup removal technique. A man with long white hair appeared, and a thought surfaced. Since becoming the Sword Emperor, I have no reason to hide my identity. Leonard's face gradually began to change. He then told himself inwardly that he never expected to use it one day to conceal his power. Leonard looked at his hands and spoke up. All right, this should keep them from recognizing me. With Haydn's face, he said softly, You're Haydn, right? Please help me out from now on. 3 months later, at the Bone Mountain Swamp, a desolate scene spread before him. At that moment, a thought appeared in Leonard's mind. The unchanging survival rule he had distilled. The blood and bone lessons of survival. Every creature in this demonic place, he solemnly reminded himself, is poisonous and possesses skilled stealth abilities. Therefore, I must not be careless. Just one moment of inattention, and you'll become prey for the lamia lurking beneath the swamp. Then, wearing Haydn's face, Leonard narrowed his eyes and thought, Even an ordinary lizard already ranks C. They're bolder than that mutated ogre. Since there are so many of them, I'll finish them all in one strike. He stamped his foot hard on the ground. Then Leonard launched himself at a lamia with his weapon in hand. With a single blow, he successfully felled the monster. Next, Leonard coldly sliced into the lamia's crown. Realizing something, he murmured, I think I made a bit of noise. It seems the boss here has awakened. Leonard immediately turned his head to observe a lamia charging forward with a sharp spear. Suddenly it startled and let out a loud cry. At the same time, Leonard coldly remarked, You're fast, but your moves are too simple. Then he showed no mercy and stomped on the lamia's spine. I don't have time to mess around with someone who knows nothing of proper swordsmanship. The moment Leonard finished it off, a glittering diamond appeared. He looked back at the gleaming items in his pouch and raised an eyebrow. I've gathered 1,500 mid-grade spirit stones. It's time to move to the next stage. The thought occurred to him at the same time. It's time to change the real combat location. He then pondered silently. I'm currently at the 10th tier of body refinement. Even though I'm borrowing Haydn's face to avoid scrutiny, if I break through here on Calabago's island, keeping it secret will be extremely difficult. Leonard then took slow, measured steps forward. He lightly swung his sword and spoke. I need a place that can suppress a mana eruption and hide me, at least somewhere to shelter from the weather. Suddenly Leonard startled and glanced over as if he had noticed something. He then wondered to himself, Is that a field over there? Leonard scanned it with his eyes and thought in surprise. Who knew there'd be so many mana-absorbing herbs here, even more potent than spirit stones? At the same time, a question formed in his mind. Could the troll guarding this cave be tending them? The troll, standing still, suddenly jolted and let out a cry. Seeing that, Leonard quickly sat down. Something was rushing toward them. Right at the troll's position, a strong gust of wind appeared. Ahead of it was a ferocious wolf baring its jaws. He was slightly surprised and realized it was a lycanthrope. The ground beneath the troll cracked as if under intense pressure. A shield appeared before it, preventing the lycanthrope from attacking the target. The monster seemed to sense something and retreated. Leonard wondered curiously, are they fighting over territory? It struck and shook the ground as it attacked. Have monsters that size learned to wield natural forces? He watched the troll's actions and thought, manipulating tens of tons of earth and rock at will. Even for me, that's not easy. But the other was also dodging with lightning speed. Before Leonard was an extremely evenly matched battle between the troll and the lycanthrope, neither side willing to yield. The two beasts howled simultaneously, each displaying its power. He remained silent, watching and predicting that this fight certainly wouldn't end soon. Taking the opportunity, Leonard immediately jumped down in front of the cave entrance. Then he glanced over, intending to slip in and explore the cave while they were busy. Leonard didn't hesitate and stepped into the cavern. If a troll of that caliber was guarding it, there must be extremely valuable treasure inside. Inside the cave, only the sound of his own footsteps could be heard. Leonard frowned and thought, having just entered, there's no longer noise from outside. This is the perfect place for me to break through. A pale golden light appeared before him. He was curious and wondered what this place actually was. He saw a tree with golden leaves emitting a radiant glow. Leonard broke into a sweat at the sight. All mid-grade herbs? Could that troll really have been cultivating this whole patch? He then glanced at the jade-green branches nearby, but something felt off. Despite the huge number of herbs here, from outside I couldn't sense anything. Next, Leonard thrust his hand forward and released a stream of blue power. The attack was instantly stopped by a thick shield. The collision echoed through the silent space. He broke into a sweat, grinned, and said, I get it. These things are protecting and hiding the place. Then Leonard looked up at the golden tree and questioned curiously. Everything in this cave is so strange. What kind of species is that radiant golden tree? He reached out and gently touched the golden leaves, feigning curiosity. I've heard of mid-grade spirit herbs, but does a tree like this really exist? It must be high-grade, maybe even beyond that. I suspect that troll doesn't know the true value of this tree. I'm going to break through to the next realm right here. But suddenly Leonard opened his eyes and glanced behind him. When he saw the battered form of the troll, he said in a low voice, Looks like I have a visitor. A streak of light appeared, like something moving at high speed. Leonard shot forward like an arrow, frowning and thinking. Because this place suppresses mana and sound, I didn't notice him approaching at all. The troll behind looked as if it had been through a fierce battle. He glanced at its body and thought, fortunately, its wounds from the fight haven't healed yet. At that moment, a massive power radiated around it, sending earth and rocks flying. The sound of breaking stones reverberated through the space. Leonard reacted quickly and leapt up to avoid the blow. He looked at the cave entrance being blocked and thought, instead of attacking directly, he's aiming to seal the entrance and trap me? A thrilled smile appeared on Leonard's lips. He then frowned and shouted, Fine, suit yourself. I will take your blows to the end. The sounds of falling earth and rocks rang out in the still night. The cave entrance was sealed by huge boulders. The only exit was gone. Inside, the troll, its body covered in wounds, launched an attack forward. Leonard dodged and glanced, thinking, has he realized he can't beat me in speed after only a few moves? Watching its actions, he thought to himself that he hadn't expected it to fling rocks so recklessly. Leonard used a flying rock as a springboard and reminded himself that a single hit could be fatal. He glanced ahead and thought to himself that this one is sharp-witted. With that decided, Leonard swiftly charged toward the troll's position. Energy surged from him as he frowned and rushed in. Leonard looked at the beast and affirmed to himself that he would finish it in a single strike. He then forcefully swung his sword and struck its jaw, causing the troll to cry out in pain. Leonard didn't stop and continued to extend the sword's arc, but seeing it unharmed, he gritted his teeth and thought, "It's protected by surrounding earth and stone." Without that, Leonard watched the troll raise its fist and thought inwardly, of course. It then brought down an enormously powerful strike that cracked the ground. Next, the troll slowly lifted its clenched hand. Leonard jeered at the sight. "I see. No wonder the wolf folk were so defeated." Then he bluntly called out, "You've been able to wield dual-element magic from the start." The troll gritted its teeth and let out a growl. It then stomped its foot angrily, causing the surrounding space to tremble. He looked at the giant before him and thought, "This isn't something I can solve by closing in. If I touch that heat, I'll melt in an instant. I need to find a weakness and finish him with a decisive blow." Having resolved that, Leonard immediately darted forward. He looked at the troll's legs and silently confirmed it was time. Leonard's eyes filled with murderous intent as he leapt toward the monster. He showed no mercy and stomped hard on the troll's knee. Leonard looked up and remarked, "What a nostalgic feeling this is." Then, still watching, he struck its jaw. It was over. A loud noise rang out, and the troll's whole body seemed about to topple backward. Leonard quickly moved away and braced himself against the cave wall. He used all his strength to spring toward the beast. Pointing his sharp sword at the troll, Leonard shouted, "It's too late now." The blade, charged with immense energy, he thrust straight into its body. Leonard raised an eyebrow and said, "I've pierced his chest. This time it's definitely over." Suddenly he startled and glanced over as if sensing something. A brilliant rose-red light emanated from within the troll's body. It was a stone with a black rim and a pink center, looking like it was about to shatter. Then a loud explosion went off right there. Flames surged and licked across the grass on the ground. Although the ground was engulfed in fire, the blades of grass seemed unharmed. At the same time, Leonard put out his hand to shield himself and gritted his teeth, thinking, "This is bad. If it explodes here, it's too dangerous." Immediately another explosion occurred, and the pressure blasted him backward. His back slammed hard into a tree, making Leonard cry out in pain. With blood spouting from his mouth, he thought, "That impact against the tree seems to have crushed all my bones." Leaning against the trunk, wounded, Leonard worried that in less than 5 minutes this cave would be burned to ashes. In such a remote place, there's no one coming to help. That means whatever happens here, no one will know. It said that when you reach a higher realm, the body will auto-heal. There's no time to hesitate. He then picked up a spirit stone scattered on the ground. Clenching it, Leonard glared and shouted, "I'll see this through." He squeezed his eyes shut and the thought appeared, "I can feel it. The mana from the stone is seeping into my damaged mana channels. My body is being miraculously healed by the spirit stone." Next, Leonard stepped toward the patch of grass growing on the ground, but this still wasn't enough. He then bent down and told himself he had to absorb all the spirit herbs here. Leonard ripped several herb plants out by the roots and shoved them straight into his mouth. Then he sat on the ground to recover and thought, "All preparations are complete. The mana exceeding my tolerance is surging and the 5 cores have begun rotating simultaneously. I feel all the energy merging into one, as if I've just gained a new heart." A pale green energy now enveloped Leonard. Both his body and mana had been restored, and he had just broken through to an entirely new realm. But why wouldn't that power stop? He had already surpassed the strength a human could normally bear. This really is just like a dragon's heart. Before him was the scene of Leonard sitting beneath the tree, concentrating all his essence to recover. With a surprised expression and wide eyes, he thought that not only had the mana from the 5 cores fully merged, his realm had leaped to the 3rd tier of external force as well. Leonard recalled the faces of the 3 elders and mused that those seniors stuck on tier 2 for years would be shocked. This would certainly cause a huge stir in Cadenas. Then he looked at the powerful energy surging through his body. His wounds were fully healed, and his mana circulation was much faster and stronger than before. Leonard clenched his fist with a hint of surprise. Who would have thought just passing one great realm would yield such tremendous progress? He then looked up at the giant tree with a puzzled feeling. How did I survive that horrific explosion in an enclosed space? I should have been unable to withstand that heat. Suddenly Leonard squinted. So that's it. Before him hung something emitting light from the tree. Without hesitation he reached out and touched it. The brilliant light vanished, leaving a single fruit. At the same time, Leonard thought that it was that abundant spiritual power that had protected him and the cave from the raging column of fire. Holding the fruit, he reflected that it felt completely natural in his hand. Then Leonard wondered skeptically whether it had truly absorbed the last drop of mana. He then turned and called back, "I'll plant a new seed for you. Come to think of it, you just saved my life." Leonard then ran quickly out of the dark cave. He dashed like lightning, thinking that if he were any later he'd be suspected. "Gotta get out fast." A loud sound echoed through the space. The earth and rocks sealing the cave mouth seemed to be shattered by some force. Leonard, unscathed, quickly shot out from inside. Sweating from exhaustion, he still grinned triumphantly. "I'm a bit too strong now. I pushed things a little too far earlier, hope no one makes a big deal out of this." From a distance, Leonard could already see the city walls before him. He then glanced at the fur on his shoulders. "Luckily, I'm just in time." Leonard eyed his disheveled clothes and frowned, thinking it'd be tiring to explain his appearance to the seniors now. Better to tidy up first. After all, for 3 months we've trained together at this hour every day. At the same moment, Haydn cried out in surprise. Then, sweating, he pointed at the door. "Hey, look! The door's opening by itself." Haydn was startled by the scene. "When did that happen?" Yen, beaming, ran up to Leonard. "Hello, I'm Yen. Just call me Senior." Hearing that, he bowed politely and introduced himself. "I'm Leonard." Leonard, sword in hand, hesitated and asked, "Senior, to be honest, my sword skills have plateaued lately. Would you be willing to spar with me?" He looked a little worried and sweaty as he asked, "That seems a bit sudden, doesn't it?" "I'm fine either way, but are you sure you're up for it?" Leonard replied calmly. "It would be an honor to learn from you." Yen, confident, ran a hand through his hair. "Since you asked, I can't refuse." Seeing this, Haydn cried out helplessly, "Hey Yen!" Then he smirked and proposed, "Follow me. I'll show you the bearing of a cat-and-ass knight." A thought crossed Leonard's mind. Perfect. Now I'm in control. Suddenly Yan's eyes widened in astonishment, as if witnessing something incredible. He looked at his body's state with a confused expression. "Why am I floating like this?" The result was clear. Yen lost the spar. After feeling Leonard's power, Gyu sat down and raised his hand. "I surrender." Gyu was defeated too. A loud noise rang out, and an image of Haydn bewildered by Leonard's speed appeared. He clenched his teeth in disbelief and demanded, "Damn, is this the level of someone who just left the training ground?" At that moment something suddenly lunged at Haydn, making him stare in surprise. He reflexively raised his hand to block the attack. At the same time, a red power surged through Haydn's arm. Yen, shocked, shouted, "Haydn, are you insane? Why use mana here?" Hearing that, his face went pale. Then all three of them ran over in fear. Haydn, anxious, loudly asked Leonard, "Leonard, are you okay?" Leonard, his hands smoking, replied calmly, "Yes." He seemed flustered and hurriedly explained, "Sorry, I used a defensive move out of instinct." Leonard looked at the wound in his palm and thought, so just using mana to block a blade can still cause injury. Swordsmanship isn't everything in this world. Leonard then crooked the corner of his mouth into a slight smile. A thought followed. "I initially only planned to help them train to repay the disguise favor, but there's a lot I can learn here." Haydn, still worried, hesitantly asked, "Aren't you angry, Leonard?" Using his injured hand, Leonard took up his sword and cheerfully said, "I'd love to continue training with you all. I'm sure it would be very enjoyable." He heard this and asked in surprise, "You really want to keep training?" Leonard replied honestly, "If possible, I'd want to train like this every day." Yen bit his nails and sweated nervously. "All right, we'll drop by your tent often." For the sake of building connections, he couldn't miss this opportunity. An image of a hand knocking a few times on a wooden door appeared. He touched his hair and raised an eyebrow, announcing, "Leonard, are you joining?" "Sorry, tonight's practice is probably cancelled." Leonard opened the door and, hearing this, wondered what was going on. He couldn't see the two others anywhere. Another question formed in his mind. Their gear looks different than usual. Are they heading out on a real mission? Then the man said, "Haven't you heard about the big explosion near the Bone Mountain swamp?" It's causing chaos, so I rushed over to tell you. Hearing that, Leonard breathed a sigh of relief, thinking, good. Looks like I'm not a suspect. Next, Yen, sweating, recounted that a werewolf and a troll who had reached the phantasm tier had fought over territory in the Bone Mountain swamp. The troll was burned to ashes, and the werewolf died gruesomely, its skin completely flayed. He then said in a serious tone that it must have been a terrifying death match. Now that the two boss monsters are dead, lower-tier beasts are swarming the swamp to loot. He wiped his brow and suggested, as you see, we have to clean up this mess as tonight's exercise. You're not ready for actual combat, so stay here and rest. Suddenly Yen reached behind him for something. Almost forgot. I have a gift for you. Yen tossed several swords to the ground and said, you must have broken a few blades by now. Nothing fancy. I'm giving you these 5 swords. They're pretty decent. Leonard looked momentarily stunned. Thank you very much. Yen pointed at himself and smiled. If you make a name for yourself later, don't forget me. Okay? Leonard nodded with a smile. Certainly, Senior Yen. Yen left but didn't forget to remind him. Also, don't wander around outside today. Most of the knights guarding this island are gathered at the swamp. You should be fine, but be careful. Sometimes swordsmanship alone isn't enough. He replied solemnly. I appreciate your advice. At the same time, a thought occurred to him. The incident is bigger than expected and has drawn the knight's attention. If I move carelessly, things will get messy. Still, this is a golden opportunity now that everyone's attention is elsewhere. Footsteps echoed in the quiet space. Leonard pulled his hood up and frowned, thinking he could act bolder without fear of trouble. Even so, using the identity reversal technique now would be risky. With the seniors' positions now clear, if I accidentally run into someone while disguised as Haydn, it would only cause another uproar. He then said with a slightly displeased, irritated expression that he'd used the werewolf's pelt. Leonard then silently resolved that once most people were concentrated at one spot, he could move freely. This truly was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He looked ahead toward the opposite side of the training ground. Let's go explore the owl field. Before Leonard now lay a vast natural landscape. Leonard took in the surroundings. It was truly quiet. He had detected enemies around and waited for them to attack. Keep watching me from deep within that thick fog. I can clearly feel those murderous gazes. But why haven't they charged out yet? He muttered to himself as he walked, not sure if they're being cautious or have lost their nerve. At this rate, it's just a waste of time. A bird dove from the sky at incredible speed. The bird landed in front of him and stared. Leonard calmly greeted his first opponent. You're my first challenger? A harpy? He was eager to test his skills. A beast your size is perfect for me to test my abilities on. Corgis' 5th phantom announced to everyone. We've arrived. This is Calabog Island. He stood before the group and shared. We've lost a total of 2 members. He spoke with indignation. It seems they couldn't catch the ascending air current and fell into the sea. Look at this, despite dedicating our lives to the homeland. He snapped irritably. Does heaven not understand our devotion? He used that as motivation to urge the others on. Never let the death of comrades be in vain. We must complete this mission at all costs. For the kingdom of Corgis. The 5th phantom of Corgis shouted, emphasizing that they must capture that Cadenas trainee alive. We have to expose every secret about their filthy bloodline. Those who followed his orders split into tasks. Show no mercy. Even if the target is a child, they are the root of all crimes. In a parched desert where the sun beat down everywhere, Gran ran frantically across the desert, his mind in turmoil. When did I get separated from everyone? He thought back in panic and blurted out. I wonder how many A-rank monsters are still on this island. Thinking about not having the captain he didn't dare to fight, Gran wondered. What exactly are those Cadenas devils plotting on this island? He ran while clutching his mask. Yet since entering this plane he hadn't seen a single threatening monster. Gran silently rejoiced. Fortunately, the deeper he went into the island, the weaker the monsters became. In other words, someone had dealt with them already, which was fine. Seeing a beast standing tall ahead, Gran didn't hesitate to charge. That must be a harpy. It's strong, but I can still handle it. He quickly closed the distance to the monster. Just as he was about to deliver a killing blow, he realized the creature had been dead for a long time. Wait, this beast has been dead ages ago. Gron wondered as he stood on the corpse. Was someone else here? He glanced around at the surroundings. He realized it wasn't just one that had been taken down. What a skilled fighter. A stone flew from somewhere toward where Gron stood. He wasn't surprised and easily knocked it aside. Who's standing there? Leonard appeared and asked. That's the question I was going to ask. Gron saw him and cried out in shock. What? His mouth was effectively sealed and he couldn't speak. Leonard continued to press. Who exactly are you? He readied his power and said, Now you can't speak, right? Let me find out who you are myself. Gron panicked at being unable to speak. Damn, my voice. He gripped his sword tightly, preparing a counterattack. He swung a powerful strike toward Leonard. Leonard calmly dodged and remarked, a blade full of killing intent. Looks like you have no intention of holding back. Huh? All his attacks were effortlessly neutralized by him. Gron was astonished by his outstanding talent. My attack was stopped by a kid? Leonard stomped and prepared to rush forward. He quickly lunged at him. He unleashed a powerful blow that left Gron with no time to react. He wondered why the damage wasn't what he expected. The cut is very shallow. Was something blocking it? A magical artifact, perhaps. Gron unleashed a secret sword technique that produced a powerful golden serpent. He hadn't expected to use this move on a brat. If he didn't go all out, he'd be the one in danger. Leonard saw the move and immediately saw through it. Are you hiding something inside your sword? A cunning and cruel assassination technique like a venomous snake. He immediately rushed toward Gron with a taunt. Still too green. Your swordplay is so obvious it's boring. The two of them closed in for melee. Leonard fought while grilling him. You've only ever bullied small fry before, haven't you? Gron still smiled under the surprise of Leonard's strength. He used some mysterious power to lock down Leonard's strikes. He said casually, I almost feel sorry for you, but I didn't expect you'd willingly throw away your sword like that. Leonard's next move stunned Gron. This brat. He actually dared to throw his sword away? Leonard clenched his fist, preparing to swing at him. He was not suppressed by that strange power and boldly countered. You think I'd be useless if you sealed my weapon? That's childish thinking. He delivered a powerful strike that sent him flying. Unbelievably, Gron was punched until his face bruised. Yet he still praised Leonard's strength. At that age and with such bold strikes and judgment, really? Could he have already awakened that filthy bloodline's power? Night fell, leaving only the moonlight to shine over this barren land. Leonard continued to stroll calmly. Leonard tied the man tightly to a tree and warned, Understand the situation now? Your mana and body are ruined, but your life is in my hands. Gron bound, still refused to be meek and cursed. Coward! He spat insults at him. Filthy cat-and-ass devil. Dare use that vile power to humiliate my pride? I will never forgive you. Leonard was left stunned by that. He pointed at the weapon emanating strange magic and retorted, What are you babbling about? Aren't you the one using a similar magical artifact? After doing that you still call me cowardly. What stupidity. He stubbornly defended his position. Shut up. Against the cat-and-ass there's no such thing as dirty play. I'll expose the bizarre power you're using. Leonard raised his fist, leaving him somewhat baffled. He shouted resolutely, Then just kill me and be done with it. Leonard replied indifferently, Whether you live or die is my decision. You don't even have the right to beg for death. Gron remained defiant and unafraid. Even if I die, I won't utter a word. You brat carry that unclean blood. After hearing that repeatedly he asked, Unclean blood? You mean the blood of the cat-and-ass family? Leonard looked at his blood-stained hand and pondered, while Gron kept droning in his ear. You can't deny the crimes flowing in your veins. He bluntly said, Raised in that evil clan, you must know it well. You people aren't truly human, and if a monster-like mutant with strange power appears, it surely comes from among you. Leonard, hearing that, asked plainly, You sure seem to know a lot. Let's see exactly what you really know. Gron kept pressing Leonard. Answer me. If your bloodline has no secrets, why does none of your cadet branches live outside the borders? He argued that if your progenitors were legitimate, there would be no need to hide. Leonard was left momentarily dumbfounded by that. Leonard shot back at his reasoning. Are you jealous of Cadenas' wealth and power that much? To the point of abandoning a knight's honor to kidnap children? If you wanted a fair fight from the start, why use these cheap binding tricks? He mocked him. Even if Cadenas' secrets are exposed, you lot are still the same. Border riffraff with no power and no honor. He leaned in with a murderous look and said, with that cheap pride, what do you intend to tell your ancestors? Gron, unafraid, snapped back. Don't talk back, brat. How dare you insult the name Corgis? Leonard exclaimed. So you're from Corgis? Gron replied in confusion. What? You already know. He decisively delivered a killing blow. When the mind is in chaos, people sometimes forget the obvious. Gron only managed to spit out 2 words. Monstrous, Leonard warned him beforehand. You've opened your mana channels. You're about to die. But before that you have to tell me everything you know. A flashback began. Corgis, a small kingdom on the western continent. Centuries ago it was regarded as a knight's sanctuary. That was before Cadenas appeared. The Knights of Corgis were defeated by the Red Dragon Order of Cadenas. With that single defeat, the world forgot Corgis and Cadenas became the new knight's sanctuary. Leonard questioned Gron. So you attacked Cadenas to reclaim glory? Before he could reply, Leonard continued. And you plan to dig up their bloodline secrets. Coincidentally, I'm quite curious about that too. Leonard cautiously considered other dangerous individuals, but the main problem was that there were beings on this island who had reached transcendent realms. He gripped the sword's hilt and told himself, I must report this to Sir Bradley. His sword began to emit an otherworldly glow. As he gathered power, he thought, the enemy is the Corgis Shadow Knight Order. He pointed his blade at Gron with concern. Most of the knights on the island are still trainees. This is too dangerous. Leonard decisively slashed him, blood spraying. You claim to be the third phantom, right? Time for you to perform your act. Everything shifted his thinking. I don't have time to explain details. I just need proof that there are high-level swordsman enemies on the island. He looked at his sword and exclaimed, still just a fake? A dry wind blew, stirring dust. But this will do for now. Leonard decided, I'll take these magical implements. He hoisted the man onto his shoulder and prepared to leave. Any objections? He began to walk across the solid ground step by step. Somewhere, huts had been erected close together. 3 people relaxed for a moment. Finally some downtime. Yeah, since deployment we've hardly had a proper rest. They walked and chatted. Please, let nothing happen tonight. Hey Yen, look over there. What's that? They all turned their gaze to the same spot. Is that a corpse? They discovered Gron's body. Call Sir Bradley immediately. Hurry! Bradley examined the wound on the body and realized something. This is, he pondered, sword aura, an attack technique only true swordsmen can execute in combat. He turned his attention to the letter beside him. So that letter was telling the truth. The crumpled letter's contents seemed like a confession of remorse for attacking the young trainees. Bradley muttered to himself, the Corgis Shadow Knight Order has many masters, even a commander at a transcendent realm leading them, and they're heading straight for the trainees' housing area. He grit his teeth and said with displeasure, if we gather all our forces, it would probably only be just enough to hold. But the leader is the real problem. Bradley ordered, Yen, raise the alarm across the island. This is an emergency. Yen hurriedly complied. Yes, sir. The atmosphere there became extremely tense. Everyone was now in a huge rush, their footsteps following one after another without pause. Leonard saw the situation unfolding just as he had expected. So they're calling everyone to assemble? It seems Sir Bradley understood our intent. Bradley stood before them and announced loudly, listen up. This is not a drill. Powerful enemies are infiltrating Calabog Island. Everyone solemnly listened to his orders. The information Bradley gave caused great concern. About 30 individuals far exceed external force level 8, and at least one knight has reached the transcendent realm of Swordmaster. He warned carefully about the danger. You know how strong transcendent masters are. Look at Captain Fabian of the Azure Dragon Knights. Treat them like moving calamities. For them, Numbers mean nothing. Bradley offered 2 options. Choose now. 1. Open a spatial gate to flee, abandon this island, and wait for reinforcements. The other option is far harder. Stay and fight the enemy.
Decide, cadenas trainee nights.
Leonard remained calm before the coming storm. A real battle like this would be a life-defining experience for them. Of course, if they survive. No one would blame them for retreating. He was somewhat surprised by how others reacted. They were resolute in their decision. We will fight. They gripped their sword hilts with confidence and declared, "We won't be easily defeated. We've grown stronger. Let them see what we can do." He looked at them with new eyes. Fighting with death close at hand is no easy thing. After all, they were knights. He had underestimated them. Everyone raised their swords and shouted, "We will fight!" The scene looked full of spirit and strength. Bradley smiled happily at their actions. He stepped forward to open the great door, praising their courage but remaining cautious. "Good. I respect your decision, but fighting Transcendence is entirely different. We'll call Captain Fabian for support." He reminded everyone, "Prepare yourselves mentally." Leonard was now heading somewhere. He stood before the cave he had dug himself, meaning he'd have to use the bunker he carved next to his sleeping spot. He was glad but stayed focused on the main task. He was still under protection, so they were evacuating him. That convenience suited him well. Now to check the new toys he borrowed. Leonard held his finger out and inspected. Most were broken. It seemed only this magic ring was still usable. A small change occurred that left him puzzled. The stone on the ring began to glow. He watched the gem dissolve and deduced it was blocking mana from the outside. If so, then I can't use any of these artifacts. Leonard reviewed everything again and realized the only useful item was the Shadow Clan signal device, which he'd already forced Phantom 30 to reveal how to use, so it should be fine. He told himself that if he found them he'd ambush. If discovered, he'd use it as bait. Leonard stopped hiding and began to move. The only one he needed to watch out for was that swordsman. His eyes shone with resolve. "I won't let you do as you please." Leonard quickly moved out to the open ground. He ran while thinking, "There's a call for reinforcements. This probably isn't from that transcendent boss. They likely don't know I'm an enemy yet." He acted decisively. "While they're in disarray, I'll finish them off. Just wait, I'm coming." Elsewhere, equally barren, only dry branches remained. A swirl of purple light tore through the ground, sending rocks and soil flying. The black-robed men were being attacked by something that wounded them badly. "You despicable bastards!" Facing the monster's overwhelming power, the black-robed group could only endure and muttered, "What the hell is happening to this island? Our strength can't handle that kind of thing." The creature had a truly bizarre form and seemed about to strike. It hurled something black toward them to attack. Seeing the situation turn sour, they retreated. "Prioritize the mission. Leave it and pull back quickly. Reinforcements are coming this way." The two ran while discussing. "That monster is A rank but alone. With backup we can probably take it down." "Hey!" one cried in shock. "Don't tell me that reinforcement is him." Leonard appeared suddenly and swiftly dealt with several of them. He'd just sent 3 comrades off their way. Another shouted in worry, "How does he even know how to use that thing?" Leonard casually explained to the black-robed men. "I just scared him a bit and he spilled everything. So the organization you praise is only that much." Hearing that, they lost their composure and charged at him. "Bastard!" Leonard stood calmly in the battlefield with 2 swords and declared, "I'll avenge my comrades." The enraged cloaked men surged forward, but one was quickly dealt with. "Shut up. This is how I avenge my friend. Cursed demon Cadenas." The man, seeing his comrade felled so easily, was stunned and didn't dare advance. Leonard reminded the cloaked man, "Have you forgotten what you're fighting?" He paid attention. The manticore, the grotesque monster, prepared to rush in and attack. It charged forward, brimming with murderous intent. Leonard stood to the side watching the lion-bodied, snake-tailed creature with its monstrous face. Truly an A-rank manticore. He glanced over and wondered. They say you can judge strength by its face, but it even has a human face. What are you? The monster seemed to heed his words and paused briefly. Suddenly it uttered 2 words. Human. His voice left Leonard astonished. A monster that can speak human language? It turned its back to him and stated, "If I fight you, I will die." Seeing its caution, he marveled. "It can read my power level too? Impressive." The monster uttered cryptically, "But I'm not that easy to kill. As long as I stall long enough, he'll arrive." Leonard was curious who that might be. The creature revealed a surprising piece of information. "Someone far stronger than me." Leonard looked at the bodies on the ground and deduced, "The leader? They seem to call him Phantom 5. Alone he's more terrifying than all the others who landed on this island combined." He thought of the Swordmaster. At his current realm he couldn't fight him. Leonard considered cautiously. If the creature was telling the truth, staying here would be dangerous. But he still challenged it out loud. "You think I'll believe a monster?" The beast pressed its glowing red eyes close and taunted. "If you aren't afraid to die, then come on in." He turned his back and sheathed one sword, preparing to leave. "Big mouth. I'll spare you this time. Don't expect a second chance." Leonard walked away slowly. The monster roared, full of vigor. "You fool!" Leonard spun around and observed. "Just as I thought." He quickly gathered his power and hurled his sword enveloped in a blue energy at the beast. His first strike landed with full force right at its head. The grotesque creature was completely hit by his blow. "You knew in advance?" It growled in pain while counterattacking. "It hurts." Leonard, dual-wielding, unleashed a flurry that sprayed the creature with blood. The second strike hit the lung. He easily struck it and moved on. The third thrust pierced straight through the heart. "Just as you said, I can't linger here long. I'm leaving now." The light emitted from the stone astonished him. He fixed his gaze on the stone's radiance. Leonard decisively discarded the necklace. "He's here." A heavily disguised, cloaked figure was rushing in. He landed on the ground with force. The cloaked man bent down and picked up the stone that was still glowing blue. He exclaimed regretfully, "I'm too late. If I'd arrived a bit earlier, perhaps we would have made history together." He then swung his sword decisively. "Anybody?" His strike released a burst of green chi. Leonard was hiding behind a rock, and he cautiously and swiftly retreated. At that distance he could still sense me. Staying here would mean death for sure. He unleashed all his hidden tricks to flee. "Never thought my tunnel-digging knack would save me. Gotta get far away from this guy." The man stood still. He looked around and muttered to himself, "Am I imagining things? Doesn't match at all." He felt this mission had gone off course and his instincts were restless. He left the place, ignoring the scattered blades and bodies. "Rest in peace. The sacrifices won't be in vain. Sleep well," he muttered. "Our objective has been completed." A hand reached up from the ground, and Leonard leapt out. A wounded soldier leaning against a tree saw him and asked, "Who are you?" "Knight of Catanas, you're too late." The severely wounded man also recognized him and said, "A trainee, huh? The knight asked you to pass on a message. As you can see, I won't last much longer. Please report this to the other knights." Just one swordsman wiped out 43 mid-level knights in an instant. The knight recounted that 8 trainee knights were on patrol. "The information you received was shocking. They've been captured." Leonard stood looking around. "So they've been taken away?" He wondered to himself how they could have escorted the captives through here and escaped. He reviewed everything. Their goal was to collect experimental subjects, so they'd want the captives alive and transported safely. If that's true, there's only one method he knew that would work: mass teleportation, a magic that transports many people to a location at once. Leonard looked into the distance and reminded himself, "I need to hurry. They've already achieved their objective." He inferred their route. To move that many people at once, they'd need an extremely large space, which meant he could deduce where they were headed. Leonard pressed the knight for more information. "Is Sir Bradley pursuing them?" The knight, though exhausted, answered, "He's scouring the entire area with his troops." He advised, "I understand. Then rest here for a while." His words puzzled the knight. "Rest? What do you mean by that?" Leonard then struck the knight, rendering him unconscious. Leonard bluntly criticized, "You've completely misread it, Sir Bradley." He slung the knight over his shoulder and assessed the situation. He had to find a way to make Bradley learn the truth. Otherwise Catanas would be completely crushed. But advice from a trainee carried no weight. He proposed a plan of action. I'll have to personally bring Sir Bradley there. Meanwhile, Bradley was leading his men in a sweeping search. He cursed as he moved. So they all ran off? Cowards who abandoned a knight's pride. Suddenly he shouted, "Who's there?" The sudden appearance put the troops on guard, ready to counterattack. Bradley guessed that the stance might be a remnant of Corgis. Leonard had taken those men's clothes to disguise himself, and he began to move. Leonard easily slipped through them while Bradley urged his men to pursue. "Why are you just standing there? Eliminate that intruder now." Seeing them act as he wanted, he started to move as well. "Good. Keep chasing me." He moved while keeping an eye on them. A volley of swords flew toward him, no chance of escape. Leonard calmly rode along on the blades as he glided forward. He moved with graceful agility as if on the ground. He leapt from side to side, lunging forward, then landed lightly on the ground. Bradley stayed close behind with his sharp blade lunging. "Corgi's people are surprisingly nimble, huh?" Leonard inwardly rejoiced. "All right. Luring them all the way here is a success." He easily dodged the forceful strike from him. "Bastard, how dare you!" His actions left Bradley baffled. He recognized the shoreline. How had he been so focused on the chase that he didn't realize they'd already arrived? Leonard stood behind, silently praying for him. "Don't die on me, Sir Bradley." He thought to himself that the real enemy was about to reveal themselves. Another strange set of armor appeared nearby. The cloaked man advanced with murderous intent. "So someone finally crawled all the way here. No need to hurry to surrender your life, dog of Cadenas." The two traded barbs. "So you're the one behind this mess. This is only the first step of a great enterprise." Bradley sneered. "Kidnapping children and calling it a grand enterprise? You won't be leaving this island. Surrender while you can." The other calmly cooled him. "Don't be so hasty." The hooded leader smiled and explained, "You really think we landed here without a plan?" He raised his hand, generating a sudden surge of energy, and declared boldly, "You lot are doomed to lose." Bradley realized and acted. "That's mass teleportation magic? Don't even dream it." The hooded leader replied confidently, "It'll take another 15 minutes to complete. In the meantime, I'll take you on personally to keep myself entertained." The two leapt into a one-on-one duel. "Struggle all you want." Bradley seemed unable to withstand the leader's strength. Leonard watched covertly and prayed. "Hold on a bit longer, Sir Bradley," he told himself. "I'll bring the knights back." At another gathering point, a magic circle appeared. This seemed to be the kidnappers' camp where the trainees were held, and Leonard had blended in with them. He kept watch over everything. Even after masking his presence, they didn't bother to check this direction. They were so focused on the fight they were full of openings. So, he moved into the interior where the prisoners were held. Chains bound the people, emanating a potent, mystical aura. Still, it couldn't withstand the sharpness of Leonard's blade. The chains were completely cut. "Did I miss?" Once freed, they remained suspicious. "Aren't you with Corgi's faction? Why save us?" Leonard warned them. "I don't owe you any explanations and I have no time. Get out of here immediately." They all looked toward him. He paid attention to them. Though danger still loomed, the knights kept their etiquette. "We are truly grateful to you." They quickly departed, leaving the hut with only him inside. Good. So the prisoner matter was done. Leonard smiled. Now the remaining task was, he casually took up his two swords and stepped outside. He moved decisively against the men outside. They couldn't react in time and were neatly dealt with, just cleaning up the trash. He calmly dealt with them one by one. Meanwhile, Bradley had fallen into dire straits, having lost one arm. The hooded leader still remarked casually, "Not quite satisfying yet, but consider it a warm-up." He painfully tried to staunch the wound. "Damn it!" the hooded leader confidently declared. "The game ends here. Soon, Corgis will once again stand at the pinnacle of swordsmanship." He realized, "I can sense it. The one who ruined our plan is coming." The hooded leader dashed off, leaving Bradley behind. Leonard also noticed the unusual presence. The man plunged down with such force that the ground cracked. He took a defensive stance against the fifth phantom. The fifth phantom of Corgis snarled in annoyance. "What a disappointment. So my killer and the one hindering our grand enterprise is just a brat. Then, to honor our fallen comrades, I'll send you to the grave here, He pointed his blade at him with murderous intent. However, glancing across the battlefield littered with teleportation circles, the commander was horrified to realize his subordinates had all been defeated. Completely disoriented, the invader tried to process how a kid could have wiped out the entire base single-handedly. Blinded by rage, he lost control and screamed madly at the tragic defeat of his comrades. He launched a devastating slash at the protagonist, vowing to shred the cat-and-ass demon into 1,000 pieces. Narrowly avoiding the strike, the youth admitted that the Swordmaster's level was absurd and that he'd have to use his trump card sooner than planned. As the enemy dove from the air, screaming for his blood, Leonard concentrated mana to materialize a pure aura blade. The leader stepped back in terror, unable to understand how an ordinary student could cast such an advanced technique. Sword in hand, glowing brilliantly, the hero coldly replied that the secret behind his skill was none of the leader's concern. In a new, massive clash between the two, Leonard calculated he could only maintain this state for 3 minutes and needed to end it immediately. Completely unhinged, the villain attacked relentlessly, hurling death threats after each brutal blow. Blocking the stabs with extreme calm, the protagonist realized the enemy had lost his mind and the fight became easier to control. Strategically creating distance, he deliberately exposed a weakness, while the Swordmaster thought he'd found an opening to counterattack. Analyzing the enemy's patterns, he decided to close the distance bit by bit, while gently evading heavy strikes. At that moment, the evil leader warned that he'd captured his target, shocking him completely with the trap. Pulling a hidden claw from his glove, the criminal revealed the weapon had been coated with a terrible poison. 1 drop was lethal. He sneered, explaining the toxin would reach his heart in seconds and utterly destroy his mana flow. Landing in the distance after a light graze, the hero mocked, "Thanks for the detailed tutorial." While the Swordmaster gloated, inside the young man's body a fierce green energy destroyed the invading toxin's essence without a trace. Seeing his opponent completely unharmed, the agent panicked and demanded to know why his lethal poison had no effect. The reincarnated youth wondered whether his special heart neutralized both poisons and curses, all while maintaining a threatening posture. Seizing his opponent's desperation, the protagonist attacked fiercely and repeated that his secret was not for trash like him. Unable to withstand the student's overwhelming power, the leader was driven back, feeling the crushing impact of the blow. Cornered, the villain summoned giant magical serpents to devour the entire scene. He leapt into the air, casting chaotic runes in a desperate effort to crush him from afar. Easily dodging the deadly vines, he wondered whether the Swordmaster had completely lost control of his own technique. Seeing the overwhelming barrage blocking the main route, the hero realized sneaking behind him had become impossible. Undeterred by the danger, the swordsman plunged into the chaos, vowing to break that barrier with sheer force. Spinning his blade into a destructive green vortex, he shattered the head of the magical serpent into 1,000 pieces. Hit by the brutal shockwave, the leader staggered back, dragging his boots across the ground to avoid collapsing. With his pride wounded, the Swordmaster cursed the bothersome brat for humiliating a warrior of his caliber. Hidden among the tangled, giant vines, the criminal swore he'd drag the brat to hell with him at any cost. In response to the caster's fury, green energy tentacles began lashing into the air like madmen. Charging toward the enemy, the hero noticed the agent was pushing his mana to the limit in a reckless assault. Using green branches as springboards, he advanced, declaring that all that flashy magic was nothing but cheap bait. In a quick dash, he slashed through the runes along the way, focusing only on staying calm and taking the opponent down swiftly. Channeling all remaining energy into his sword, the protagonist executed precise cuts to erase the enemy's vision. He destroyed the final defensive layers of the foe's technique without losing momentum, driving his assault through the air. Spotting the Swordmaster's unprotected body ahead, the young man rejoiced. The final target was now in perfect range. He shot forward like a bullet, attempting to pierce the villain's chest with a powerful thrust. To the hero's surprise, a magical device hidden in the armor activated, instantly creating an electric shield. The defensive blast violently threw him backward as he tried to process that the coward still had another trick up his sleeve. Seizing the sudden daze, the leader grabbed the student's tunic, mocking that the young hero had slipped up at the last moment. He asked if the boy thought he was merely casting blind magic and revealed he'd been waiting for him to come close all along. He bound his opponent with a poisonous black-green aura. The villain warned the brat that his luck had run out and declared the game over. However, Fabian forced himself up from behind, radiating a fierce red magic, and warned that wouldn't happen. In an instant, the veteran launched a massive slash at the assassin. Utterly terrified, the leader panicked, not understanding who had struck from the void. The slash struck the invader in the back, a recompense for the fallen soldiers. Coughing and choking, the leader asked whether the youth truly intended to take him down to the point of using himself as bait. He confirmed the enemy had been so focused on him that he hadn't noticed the mission commander approaching, then landed lightly on the battlefield. The guide apologized for being late. He praised the student's insane development in such a short time and thanked him for saving his comrades. As the other knights arrived in the area, the veteran said he had a few questions to ask, but the protagonist cut in immediately, asking if they could talk after he took a nap. Understanding the boy's exhaustion, the superior agreed and told him to rest. Moments later, the commander's face turned utterly serious. Focusing on the invader bound by magical chains, he assured them he'd start by cleaning up that heap of trash. Even defeated, the leader muttered that this was far from over. Hearing the threat, the commander realized something very wrong was unfolding. Wasting no time, the veteran launched a full-force attack, declaring it would end here. At that moment, the assassin's body collapsed as a strange energy shoved the protagonist backward. Taken aback by the trick, the instructor finally understood who the real target had been all along. Grasping the student with his magical form, the villain vowed to drag the brat down with him to his last breath. A towering column of light swallowed them both in a flash teleportation rune. As the light winked out, the knights were stunned by the hero's disappearance from the battlefield. At the camp, one of the soldiers exclaimed skeptically that the student had really been taken by the enemy. Analyzing the magic circle on the ground, the commander concluded that the imperfect spell had thrown them into an entirely unfamiliar place. Disappointed with the situation, the veteran blamed himself for dropping his guard, thinking he was the target. Trying to reassure his superior, a subordinate reminded him that no one expected the young student to be the primary target. The soldier reasoned the opposing side had seen a great threat in the brat, enough that they'd abandon their ideals to capture him. Recalling Leonard's skills, the knight admitted he'd never seen such terrifying development in history. Commenting on the recruits, he noted the boy's level far exceeded that of a typical novice. Looking toward the horizon, the warrior wagered that a new legend was about to be written by House Cadenas. Determined to fix the problem, the commander agreed to call for reinforcements immediately and handed over command to a colleague. With a resolute gaze, the veteran declared they must find the student at all costs. Meanwhile, the hero drifted unconscious on a plank in the vast ocean. Slowly coming to, the castaway spotted a huge structure approaching on the water. Smelling the sea and feeling constant rocking, the boy finally realized he was being rescued by a ship. Suddenly, a red-haired girl burst through the cabin door, cheering that the patient had woken. In a demanding tone, she warned she had 1,000 questions and demanded answers in exchange for saving his life. Shifting mood quickly, the captain introduced himself as Francis and asked the boy's name in a friendly manner. Still processing the unusual situation, the swordsman quietly observed the young woman offering her hand. Shaking the rescuer's hand, he politely introduced himself and mentioned the empire he hailed from. Shocked by that information, the girl wondered how he had ended up so far from home. Avoiding eye contact awkwardly, the protagonist downplayed the mess, saying it was just an accident. Recalling the ambush by the swordmaster, he explained he'd been pulled into a spatial spell and blacked out shortly after. Impressed that he survived that rune, the captain quickly deduced the boy was part of the fearsome House Cadenas. The brown-haired assistant analyzed his trained physique and agreed this was the only logical explanation for his strength. Leonard confirmed the suspicion without hesitation and was surprised to realize his family's reputation had crossed the ocean. Worried about the consequences, the assistant whispered, advising his boss to keep his distance to avoid trouble. At that moment, a crew member burst into the room in a panic, begging the captain to run to the city dock. With blood on his brow, the sailor tried to warn them that the ship was under attack by dangerous thugs. On the main deck, An arrogant blonde man was smashing everything in his path, leading a violent gang. Angered by the cowardice, the brown-haired girl drew a weapon, realizing the attackers had struck on a day of vulnerability. The captain apologized for the mess as the protagonist left the bed, ready to act. Before rushing out, the red-haired girl told him her guest was free to leave as soon as he felt better. Alone in the room, the young man looked at his toolkit and clothes neatly folded in the corner. He remembered asking why she would save a stranger at sea. In his memory, the young woman simply replied that she would never abandon anyone who needed a helping hand. Seeing the captain leap into an uneven fight, Leonard thought she was the one who needed help the most right now. At the dock, the invading group completely surrounded the captain's ship, waiting for their leader's command. Approaching with steady steps, the arrogant leader mocked the red-haired girl's appearance for the confrontation. Gripping their swords, the two guards faced the opponent, questioning the reason for this uninvited visit. Annoyed by the bold reply, the blonde cracked a sly smile, trying to restrain his own anger. Impatient, the thug told his assistant to shut up and threatened to smash anyone who drew a weapon against him. Gritting her teeth in hatred, the brown-haired girl muttered the bastard's name, restraining the urge to strike on the spot. Putting a hand up to shield her ally, the captain demanded the opponent pull his lackeys back so they could settle this one-on-one. Staring at the red-haired girl from close range, the bastard told her to drop the stubborn act and hand over ownership of the ship immediately. Pointing at the magnificent ship, he taunted her, saying the royal inheritance was rotting in her hands. Holding his stance, the leader shot back the insult, reminding him that her father's death did not make him master of everything. With crystal-clear resolve, the girl told the invader to get lost because she would never hand over her precious ship. Drawing his blade threateningly, the villain warned her to sell the ship now before he completely lost his patience. Before the thug could finish his threat, someone dove down from above, brutally smashing one of his lackeys to the deck. Brushing dust off his clothes, the hero calmly rose and asked permission to take down the enemy leader first. Completely shocked by the swordsman's brutal appearance, the girls and thugs stared at the scene, not understanding what had happened. Looking at the wreckage, the gang leader panicked, telling his lackeys to pick up the severed arm and cursing the captain in fury. Utterly enraged by the unexpected turn, the invaders lost control. Blaming the girls, he ordered his men to sweep everything clean and then demanded to know what the hero had done to his brothers. Not giving the enemy time to react, Leonard charged in, cleaving the lackeys down with ease. Immediately after, the swordsman slid his blade back into its sheath with a swift motion. Seizing the opening, the protagonist delivered a direct strike to the arrogant leader's face. With brutal force, the bastard collapsed unconscious to the deck right in front of Frances and her assistant. Impressed by his speed, the brown-haired girl remarked the thug hadn't had a single chance, while the captain recognized the true power of House Cadenas. Standing on the fallen enemy's back, the hero noticed the man had somehow managed to reattach his own arm. Beside the corpse, the young man turned to the girls and asked what they wanted done with the defeated one. However, both remained completely silent, still processing the absurdity of what had just occurred. Noticing his rescuer's hesitation, the trainee found the reaction odd and asked if something was wrong. With a long sigh, Frances admitted that the trash on the ground was the illegitimate son of the most powerful man in Atlantis. With a completely serious expression, she began explaining how things operated here. The captain revealed that the Atlantis Maritime Alliance was governed by a powerful council that ruled all those seas. The red-haired girl detailed that the invader's father was Pablo L. Orlando Peterson, one of the 5 top bosses of the entire council. Analyzing the information, the reincarnated young man realized he had stumbled into far larger trouble than he had imagined and considered how to get out. Then he called the captain by her name, immediately drawing her attention. Straightforwardly, the swordsman told her he would serve as her bodyguard for a while. Observing the gleaming ship, the protagonist inwardly decided to stay to handle the issues and gather some useful information.